Hey guys, welcome to Approach the Nerd. I got my spouse with me, River Park. We saw Spider-Man last night, and it was effing amazing. I only have one it is really small gripe, and it's only because of the fact that they do something that's related to one of my most hated comic runs of all time. But outside of that, the movie for me was almost perfection. I am a longtime Spider-Man fan, so Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, having them incorporated in this movie, even though they denied it and denied it and denied it, for me is amazing. I have a lot to talk about in this. I'm just checking my settings really fast because StreamYard, when I was using my DSLR on my Yashahime review, was turning off my camera. So I'm not using my DSLR now. I'm using my Logitech, and I'm just making sure everything is kosher because I'm streaming it through a virtual camera through OBS. So we'll see what happens. But so far, so good. I mean, I'm only doing 720p, so I think it should be fine. All right, so the movie No Way Home. I love the fact that it is actually true in a lot of ways. I took a lot of notes, so you're going to see me looking up here because when I was at the drive-in, I was literally taking notes while I was watching this movie in my car. So, and again, I was at the drive-in because I'm COVID safe. I was not going to the IMAX or the theater. I would have loved to have seen this in IMAX, but no. So we're going to talk about the movie, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the Doctor Strange 2 trailer that they played at the end of the movie, as well as the post-credit scene that they did with Venom. And this is a spoiler. If you are in here, I am assuming that you have seen said movie or you do not care about being spoiled. So please do not jump in these comments when you see it in the title and you see it in the description. It says spoiler. Therefore, it's what? What? Spoiler. All right, so the movie starts off exactly where the previous movie ends. It's literally Quentin Beck on the screen in the middle of Times Square saying, "I was killed if you're watching this by Spider-Man. And by the way, his real name is Peter Parker." And he even shows a picture. Of course, J.J. Jameson shows a picture because J.J. Jameson is out of control, and I love it. It's the original J.J. that we had, JJJ that we had before he became Spider-Man's ally later on in the comics. So I loved J.J. Jameson throughout this entire thing. I loved him in Tobey Maguire movies. I love him in this. He has the same energy, the same anal retentiveness. You just want to reach in and smack the hell out of him. He did a great job. So I loved it. You're going to hear me just like say little things too as we go that I just noticed. Anybody who follows the Spider-Man comics knows that Ned Leeds was actually a friend, technically, of Peter Parker and also seen as a love rival. Because at some point he dated Betty Brant in the comics, in the earlier comics. So Betty Brant had a cameo in this as a reporter who was on site at Peter's school when they, basically they tried to arrest Peter and they took him to, the interrogation. They basically were interrogating him, his aunt, MJ, and of course Ned. And, basically we got our Matt. We didn't get Daredevil, but we got Matt. He came in and he was like, "Oh, these charges are going to go away. And I'm a really good lawyer." And he was basically telling Happy, "But by the way, you're screwed. You need a great lawyer." I love that scene. But the whole Daredevil reference that we got is just basically somebody threw a brick through the window and he caught it, even though he's blind. And Peter was like, "How did you do that?" And he's like, "I'm a damn good lawyer." So I wanted him to have a bigger role in this. I would have loved to have him like in the middle of everything going on. You got Daredevil sitting up there saying, "Huh, this is messed up." Maybe I should just try and help a little bit. But no, we didn't get that. But I get it. We're trying to focus on technically our 3 Spider-Men and honestly 5 members of the Insidious 6. So I don't know. I kind of felt like I would have loved to have seen Matt just like rolling up. I don't know. I just thought there was more they could have done with him. But the fact that he's in this and the fact that we have another MCU Netflix character in Hawkeye, I kind of feel like we're incorporating them in more, even though I don't think that they're from the Netflix counterpart. I think this is this Earth's version of these characters and not the Netflix, kind of representations of them, which kind of sucks because it kind of invalidates Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, even though I was pissed about season 2 of Luke Cage. It invalidates them. So notice how I did not say Iron Fist. Anyway, so back to the movie. So we learned a lot of things in this movie, but the first thing that started happening is, so Peter, MJ, and Ned all want to go to MIT. They're trying to plan their lives around the chaos of everybody knowing that Peter is Spider-Man. He had to move in with Happy. Him and Aunt May moved in with Happy, which is so funny because they moved in with him after she dumps him. And Happy's literally at the apartment crying, which is, for me, freaking hilarious. But they want to go to MIT. And all of them get rejected because they're involved with Spider-Man. Not because of their grades, not because of anything they did other than being associated with Peter. And that is so messed up. And Peter feels really bad about it. So he goes to Doctor Strange and he's like, I want the world to forget that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Well, Doctor Strange, I understand that most of this is Peter's fault, kinda. But it's also Doctor Strange's fault because, quite frankly, why in the hell didn't he tell Peter, well, when you say everybody, your loved ones are not going to know too. He waited till he started to spell to even say, yeah, everyone's going to know that you're not Peter Parker. And, he didn't have time to rewrite it. So technically Peter changed the spell. I think he said it was like 5 times, and it became so chaotic that he had to encase it into this box. And while it's in this box, it's not supposedly able to affect the real world. But what it did was everybody who knew who Peter Parker was started coming into Earth 616, basically, from their Earths. And I think the first one we run into is Doc Ock. And we run into Doc Ock because he's all of the villains in this are basically being snatched out of their universe right before their deaths with their respective Spider-Man. So Doc Ock, right when he was trying to get the Sunstone, in movie 2, when he kidnapped MJ and he ended up falling into the water and drowning, right before he died, he's plucked into this universe, which I thought was very creative. But what's interesting for me is that Peter, the reason he met Doc Ock is because he went to the bridge to talk to the MIT person that he missed because they had a big mixer for all the incoming freshmen and orientation basically. And Dr. Strange said, "Did you try talking to them, appealing your case?" And he's like, "Oh, I can do that." He's like, "You came to me to do this big life-changing, world-altering spell, and you didn't even call anybody at MIT." And I thought that was hilarious. That's a Peter Parker thing. I buy it. But he's on the bridge trying to convince her, and then Doc Ock attacks. And, he ends up saving the MIT admissions person that represents recruiter, I guess. And I love how she's like, "I'm going to talk to MIT about your friends and you." He's like, "Well, you don't have to do it for me. He's like, "And you." And she's like, walking by Doc Ock. She's like, "It's something wrong with you." I effing love the recruiter scene. Okay. So after the whole situation with Doc Ock, and Doc Ock literally, he basically takes the mask off of Peter. He's like, "You're not Peter Parker." But then, of course, Peter in this world has more tech than Tobey Maguire's Peter does. So he's able to take control of all of the arms that are attached to Doc Ock through his fried out chip. And then literally that's how he ends up saving MIT. He lifts her car up, and a lot of stuff happens from that. But if you've seen it, you know it. So that's how he runs into Doc Ock. But then right after that, we see Goblin. And so Goblin's there, and we're like, oh. Like William Dafoe, man. I'm wondering if his makeup was made to make him look a little bit younger, because he died early in the first movie. Well, he died in the first movie. So before Octavius. So it kind of looked like they smoothed out his skin a little bit, because they can do that. We've seen them do that in many movies, especially Tron. Tron was the sequel to Tron was a big one where they made the actor look a lot younger. So to me, it made them. It kind of looked like the version of Norman was actually from the first movie, which was 18, 20 years ago. So I thought that was interesting that he was de-aged a little bit. And that's how he looked to me. Now, I could be wrong. William Dafoe could actually look like that, but I thought he looked a lot older when he was in Aquaman. So that's just me. But so we have Goblin, who I already knew was going to be the linchpin to all of Peter's plans. So Goblin shows up. He has no memory. It's just like how he was in the first movie. He doesn't know what actually the Goblin part of him does, because he technically has a Dr. Hyde, brings on Dr. Hyde, or what is it? Dr. Hyde, and I can't think right now. Mr. Jekyll. Why can't I think of Jekyll right now? There's something wrong with me. But it has a split personality. So his good side, which still is kind of narcissistic, because he was never truly good to begin with. He was a bit of an a-hole to begin with. But that part is kind of more human, and then he has the Goblin side. And so when he shows up, he goes to Aunt May's. So Aunt May calls and says, "Oh, somebody from another person from your Earth is here." And we have Peter rushing there. He's like, "Where's Aunt May?" And they're sitting there having tea. But I knew he was going to be the linchpin, because they also have Electro and Lizard, and they have Sandman, and he's able to find Electro. He's looking for Goblin, found Electro charging himself, is able to give him. He does something to make his form come back solid. And Doctor Strange gave Peter this bracelet. When he zaps whoever from the other world with it, puts them in this like containment thing, and I'm going to call it the Wizard's Dungeon. That's what they called it, in the Wizard's Dungeon of their building. And kind of holding them there where they aren't able to use their abilities to get out until they can send them back to their world. Well, he meets basically Electro. He also meets Sandman. Sandman helps him get Electro. So he is an ally for a little while. But they're all going to this one place. This is where it gets weird for me, okay? So Aunt May, she works at this place that helps people, like, think of it like a shelter / kind of like, it's kind of like a social worker type situation, where she also places people in homes and helps people when they're like down on their luck, or that maybe they need rehab or whatever. So she's like this all encompassing person. And we know in the comics, the older counterpart of her did this too. All right. So Aunt May gives him a speech, because Peter literally was like, "I'm just going to do what Dr. Strange says. I'm going to send all these people home. And it's not my problem." And Aunt May's like, "What do you mean it's not your problem? We help people, Peter." And I got thinking, does anyone not understand the magnitude of what you're asking Peter to do? I mean, forget the multiverse in itself. By you helping these villains, you are essentially putting them back in a position where, if they truly are not good people, powers or not, will potentially put the other Spider-Mans, the other Peter Parkers, in danger, because this is their second shot to take these guys out, and you are enabling that. So I thought that was a really weird call on Aunt May's part. I'm like, "Aunt May, I understand that your heart is big and you want to help everybody. We all want to sing and share a Coke, and hold hands. But sometimes, sometimes you just got to let, the timeline do its shit." Just like this is the same problem, if you follow my Arrowverse reviews that I had with the Flash Armageddon. Let the timeline correct its own problems. Let the multiple Earths, correct its own problems, because these people are not from your Earth. It's just not. I didn't understand
playing
that.
God.
Yeah, you're playing God. I mean, it's not your story. It's not your villains. These aren't your people. These are your other Spider-Man counterparts people. So I thought that was interesting that it was May. So if I'm really going to be real with you, my opinion of this is, technically, even though we know what happens to May in this, it is actually kind of May's fault, because she lit a fire under Peter and guilted him. And that's why he did all the shit he did. It was her fault in a way. And so I stand by that. People can argue with me or whatever, but it would be like me telling my daughter, yes, you can let all of these villains stay and blah, 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 or go back to their world and everything will be fine. But why can't we have a heart? Why can't we help them at the expense of effing up your life completely, where nobody's going to remember who you are? And I'm going to flat out be killed. No, we did not make good choices. And so I'm going to, before I continue on, because I'm going to talk about MJ, talk about everybody else. This is where it gets a little annoying for me, okay? This is the only thing besides May that bothers me about this whole effing movie. If you have followed Approach the Nerd, especially my comic book content, I have said this since 2019. The comic series that I hate more than life itself, as a Spider-Man fan, as a person who got into the comics because of Spider-Man at 5 years old, is called One More Effing Day.
Without the effing.
No, with the effing. This is a story that was written by J. Michael Straczynski and the a-hole that is Joe Quesada. I cannot stand Joe. And the only reason we have one more piece of crap day is because he hated Mary Jane Watson. That is literally it. There was no other reason. He's like, I don't believe that somebody as nerdy as Peter Parker could have a really hot girlfriend. Well, I feel sorry for your wife if that's what you're thinking, because you don't look all that. You look nerdy. So what are you saying about your wife? I'm just putting that out there. That's how we got the annoying Carly Pope and all this other crap. So One More Day literally was written, which was basically right after Civil War, because Aunt May gets shot. And then they go to Mephisto, of all people. Remember, guys, Mephisto, the MCU's Easter egg that they like to taunt us with that will never show up in MCU. Mephisto, to retcon their marriage so they don't remember each other. Now, it's not to protect Peter's identity, because remember, in Civil War, Peter chose to reveal himself. He wasn't outed by Quentin. No, he pulled his own damn mask off. He told the world who he was. He's the one who put himself and his family in danger. This was a choice that Peter made. And nothing got changed for that at all in One More Piece of Crap Day. The only thing it did was make MJ forget that she was married to Peter, and Peter forget that he was married to Mary Jane. That is literally what One More Day did. And so they took that. And yes, I understand in this version, Aunt May is hot and younger. She's not 150 like she was in One More Day. She lived her best life. She could have just let her go, But, I digress. She still has the same technical fate, only she became Uncle Ben. And I'll get to that in a second. But by the end of this movie, Mary Jane and Ned, the only two people that Peter actually has left, because Aunt May is dead, have no clue who he is. Not only do they not know who he is, the Avengers don't know who he is. Nobody knows who Peter Parker is. They know Spider-Man. They don't know Peter Parker. And I guess I just looked at my spouse. I'm like, they literally did a new version of One More Effing Day. And when you see Peter go see Mary Jane and Ned at her job at the end, it is heartbreaking, because they got into MIT and their lives are going on the right track. And he made the determination to just let them have their lives and not reveal himself. And I'm like, that is so messed up on so many levels. So yes, this crap ticked me off. And then another thing that I have a problem with is, if you follow the comics, the people that actually helped Peter get his identity back were Doctor Strange, Mr. Fantastic, and then of course Tony Stark, because it was actually Tony's fault originally why he revealed himself. He talked him into doing it, blah, blah, blah. So they're the ones that helped him retcon the situation where nobody knew Peter was Spider-Man again. Well, we don't have Tony Stark. We have not introduced Mr. Fantastic yet. We only have Doctor Strange, and he's the one that did the damn spell to erase him. And I'm like, so I'm like, why? So yeah. River's going to give some opinions too, guys. I'm not just here with my spouse because, my spouse is cute. I just know more about comics than River does. So I'm just like talking about the comic aspect, and then we'll talk about like the little things we liked. All right. So there is that. And we know that everything that Doctor Strange has done is going to tie into Doctor Strange 2, which we'll also talk about in a second. All right. So the idea for Peter in this movie was, I'm going to fix all the villains' problems. I'm going to take away Electro's electricity. I'm going to cure Doc Ock. I'm going to cure Norman's goblin identity. I'm going to fix the chip in Doc Ock and Doc Ock, basically. Like all of this stuff. He had all of these plans on how to make everybody normal, including helping Sandman become human again. And for the most part, it was working. But Goblin. The problem with having a villain who has a split personality is that split personality, like Venom, if you watch the Venom movie, or, the symbiote itself in the comics, is always listening. So Goblin's like, you want to erase me? I'm like, they should have had this conversation with Norman in another room or somewhere else. Because yeah, Norman was having that. Or Goblin in Norman was not having that. And so it led to a huge fight between, of course, Peter and him, where he was killing Peter. And Aunt May pretty much was running down the stairs and was trying to intervene. And of course, he called his glider and it hit her and actually stabbed through her. And she ends up getting killed. And she ends up doing the Uncle Ben line, with great power comes great responsibility. And I was like, wow, MCU really has established itself as its own world when it takes Uncle Ben's like coin line and gives it to Aunt May. Not saying she hasn't said that to him in the comics, but we all know this origin story wise. We know this is Uncle Ben. And when we finally see Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, we'll talk about their intros because that was funny. Them stressing that was Uncle Ben was effing hilarious to me, because I was like, yeah, they had to do it this way because the MCU literally is doing its own shit. It's just what it is. I talked about this in every MCU property. Connections between characters are always altered or non-existent. So it's a thing. But Aunt May is gone. She is dead. So that means literally, and this is a question I have for you guys, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Essentially every tie that Peter knows, unless they stick to the comics and we realize that he has a sister who's a spy and his parents are actually spies or were spies working for S.H.I.E.L.D., that he has no family. Now, with Aunt May being the one that says this, it makes me wonder, did they have an Uncle Ben? Was she ever married to Ben? I don't remember. If you guys remember, starting with Homecoming, did they ever mention Uncle Ben? Because if they did have an Uncle Ben, how did he die? And did he die prior to him being Spider-Man or during Spider-Man not knowing he was Spider-Man? Because obviously he never said this iconic line. So then what the hell did Uncle Ben do? I'm just wondering what Uncle Ben's role is in the prime Earth Spider-Man's life, because they don't give us that. So I'm under the impression that like there is no Uncle Ben. Like Aunt May was just a swinger. She just played the field, So I don't know. That's something that I wonder about. Zendaya is MJ. I love her. What blew my mind is that they gave her another part of her name, because we were calling her Michelle Jones, MJ, but now we realize her actual name is MJW. Her last name is Watson. So she's Michelle Jones Watson, but she only goes by Jones. And I want to know what's up with that, because she's living with her dad. But I thought in the last movie, she didn't know where her dad was. I remember her saying that she hadn't been talking to her father or whatever. So I was assuming she lived with her mother and her dad was a deadbeat. But now it's like, oh, my dad's at home. And, they did the whole line where Peter's like, I thought your dad loved me or liked me. And she's like, not anymore, because you're being accused of being a murderer. So does that mean the mother was Watson? I'm confused on who Watson is now. Where did she get the Watson tie-in? So that is interesting. But I love that she was basically the Mary Jane of this story in terms of being the supportive role. She's also extremely smart. I didn't realize she was trying to be an engineer. I don't know if they alluded to that at all in the last two movies. I mean, she was writing a lot. She was very creative and she was smart. I just didn't realize she was on the same track, because now it's like Ned, MJ, and Peter were all going to MIT. And I'm like, interesting. I didn't know she was desiring to be an engineer. So there are a lot of stuff that came out in this movie that I'm scratching my head about, because I need to go back and watch the other two now. I'm like, did they ever allude to this? So it's a thing. Again, it's the MCU. We suspend our disbelief. This could have been something just made up for this movie. All of a sudden, she's an engineer, wannabe. But again, I'm saying this disclaimer. It could have been there. I just don't remember it. So just putting it out there. I do see your comments, guys. We'll get to it when we're done. All right. So when they introduced Andrew and they introduced Toby's characters, hilarious. I love when Andrew comes through. Ned basically uses Doctor Strange's ring, because what happens is, because Aunt May puts it in Peter's head, we need to save the villains, and Doctor Strange is like, no, we don't know anything about the multiverse. We're not doing that. Look, Wong even said, I don't want a part of this. I'm going out. You guys do you, boo. I need to go deal with Shang-Chi. Whatever. I don't know where the hell he went, but that's what I'm saying. He's probably I'm going to go hang out and do karaoke with Shang-Chi and Ke. But so he leaves. And Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme. by technicality because, of course, Doctor Strange was blipped out for 5 years, which is something he's very bitter about, by the way. So we have Doctor Strange with the box, and right when he's about to push the button to send everybody back, that's when Peter decides to grab it. So leading up to the introduction of Spider-Man, some really fun things happen in the whole fight between him and Doctor Strange. And the fact that Spider-Man actually beat Doctor Strange's butt is hilarious to me. So he's pushed into the mirror world, but right before he's into the mirror world, Doctor Strange basically separates his consciousness from the rest of his physical body. But his physical body is still moving the box out of Doctor Strange's way, which was effing hilarious. I thought that was hilarious. I don't know if this is a contest to his sense of will, but I will tell you, I have never wanted Doc Ock to jump in his body more like he did in Superior Spider-Man than I did right there. I'm like, because I don't know. I just thought that was really funny. And considering Peter was always in his consciousness, I thought that was very, very cool. But I love when Spider-Man got back in his body. He's like, that was the coolest experience of my life, but don't ever do that again. Then they're in the Mirrorverse, which we got to see the Mirrorverse, badass. And they're fighting. And Peter figures out geometry works in the Mirrorverse. You got magic, but I got math. AP, man, MF. So he starts calculating, and he literally beats Doctor Strange with geometry, which makes me feel bad because the only math I hated in school was geometry. And I've always told my spouse who's good in geometry, I said, you know what? I don't ever need to have geometry in life. Nah, I take it all back. You know what? If I'm in the Mirrorverse, I need geometry. So that shit works. So you have made a math believer, a geometry believer out of me in this movie. That accomplished a lot. But yeah, he beat Doctor Strange with the power of geometry. Snap. So then he gives the box to MJ and Ned and sends them on their way to go. He doesn't want them to be around with all these villains because it could be really dangerous. So River says during the movie, but what about Aunt May? You don't give a damn that she's around all these villains? And I'm like, nope. I'm like, not at all. So the introduction of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. So Andrew Garfield basically is in his own world, and he walks through a portal because Ned all of a sudden, and Ned does say, for some reason, he does say, and quote, my family has always felt like they had magic. And he's like, I always felt tingling in my fingers. He's able to use Doctor Strange's ring and open portals. And that's something that even Doctor Strange, when he's like, you open portals? He's like, yeah. He's like, And I don't know if they're ever going to expand on that. But I think Ned being somebody could train under Doctor Strange would be badass. And then it starts thinking about all the apprentices that he's had in the comics. And I'm like, that would be really cool. So I don't know if that's something that they're leading towards, but they have established that Ned has potential of being, a sorcerer or a magician, whatever you want to call him. So there's that. You're a wizard, Ned. But so Andrew Garfield is on the other side of the portal. He just walks in and they're like, yay. And then he takes his mask off and they're like, and MJ's like, who the hell are you? You're not Peter. And he's like, yeah, I'm Peter Parker. No, you're not. And he's like, I'm Spider-Man of my world. She's like, no. So he literally is hanging on the ceiling with one hand. And she's like, that's not enough. He's like, that's totally enough. They're literally debating it. And it's not until Ned's grandmother's like, can you go get that spider web on the other side? He just crawls across there and pulls it down. They're like, okay, that tracks. So then they realize that there are other Spider-Man. So then they're like, well, now maybe I just need to keep trying until we find ours. And I was thinking, oh Lord, you know how many Spider-Man they're in the effing Spider-Verse? I mean, we can get Spider-Man Noir. I mean, there's so many alternate versions of Peter that this is not a good idea. And to be fair, not every Spider-Man in every Earth is named Peter Parker, but I mean, there are a lot. So that was not a good idea. But the second one they open is, of course, Tobey Maguire. Which is interesting for me because the age of Tobey Maguire it's very obvious that he's old. I don't mean to say old because I'm in my 40s and you're in your 40s, but he's around our age or older. He's not where he was when he did the first 3 movies. But for me, Goblin he looks the same that he did in it's weird to have Goblin like William Dafoe look younger than Tobey Maguire. I'm just throwing it out there. I just thought that was really interesting. But yeah, that whole interaction was cool. And then this is where the really fun stuff comes in, besides the really kick-ass fight scenes with all three Spider-Men. I think the banter between the three of them, I mean, especially when they were talking about the web shooters and the organic shooters. Prime Peter Parker asked the question that fans have been asking for years. Does your organic webbing only come out of your wrists, or does it come out of other places? He's like, just the wrists. I'm like, yes. That was so epic cool. I freaking loved it. I love how both Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland Spider-Man were jealous of Andrew Garfield because he can make his own webbing. And then Andrew Garfield's like, oh, I'm just useless. And I love when he was talking down on himself, Toby's like, you're amazing. You're the amazing Spider-Man. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, first of all, in the comic run, you're technically not the amazing Spider-Man, but we're going to go there because that's what your movie series was called. But I love how he stressed, you're amazing. You are amazing, Andrew Garfield, Peter Parker. I'm like, okay, we get it. He's the amazing Spider-Man. There's just moments like this that it just made me, like, the whole banter between them made me laugh. All right, so I'm breaking down. I'm trying to get down to the rest of it so I can let River give you some of the whole opinions on what's happening. All right, so Electro, like, I called them Insidious instead of Sinister Six. I just realized what I said earlier. Mm-hmm. Smack me. Sinister Six. So we had 5 members of the very long list of Sinister Six people, because there's more than 6 people in the Sinister Six, that I thought this was probably the only time ever we would see Spider-Man, with that many members, like battling that many members, outside of what they attempted to do with Andrew Garfield. I mean, sorry, not Andrew Garfield, with Tobey Maguire in the third movie, which didn't really play out very well. I think they had Venom, Goblin, and then they had Sandman, all in the same one battling him, and it was not, to me, it was not good. It looked like they were going that route with Andrew Garfield before they decided not to make the third movie. So yeah, I love how this came about, and I love that there were 3 Spider-Men and that they didn't know how to work as a team. I love how Peter was like, I was part of the Avengers, and they're like, oh, cool. What the hell's that? Like, that a band? I'm like, yes. Absolutely. Yeah, so guys.
Steve Rogers and the Avengers.
He's like, it is Steve Rogers. I mean, why not? That's what happened in Hawkeye. It's a musical. It's playing in New York. But I love that they didn't know how to fight. And so they had to assign themselves numbers. Spider-Man number 1, Spider-Man number 2, Spider-Man number 3. I'm like, that was cool. All the banter was cool to me. I love how, if you really take a deep dive into this movie, there are elements of Toby and Andrew all over the place. Because when they're talking about their trauma, we had, of course, Toby talking about Uncle Ben and how he basically tried to take out the killer. I did actually take out the killer in a sense. Andrew Garfield talking about losing Gwen, and that was his MJ. And then MJ being thrown off a building. And then, of course, you have Tom Holland Spider-Man try to save MJ. And then so Goblin actually knocks her aside so he couldn't reach her. And then it was actually Andrew Garfield Spider-Man was like, hey, I'm not going through this shit again. And he's the one that caught her. And then you see him crying because he actually was able to save an MJ, or Gwen, should we say, at the end. And a lot of people called that. And I thought that was a very good homage to him. Like, he was crying and he's like, she's like, are you all right? And he's like, you see him bawling. Now I'm going to use this moment, because we're talking about MJs again and Gwen, to talk about the prerequisite for being in a Spider-Man movie as the love interest of Spider-Man. You have to date the lead actor. That is literally it. Because Tobey Maguire did it with Kristen Dunst. Of course, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone were a couple while they were doing the movie. And now we have Zendaya dating Tom Holland. You literally have to. It is in your contract that you have to be the love interest on screen and in real life if you were casting Spider-Man as a love interest. That is what I'm thinking is happening. Because, I mean, what are the odds of all 3 of them happening?
Or if it's not, I mean, as a female actor who's in the lineup for this role, you better expect that you're going to fall in love with this man. Even if you like, you have no idea who he is for some reason, even if you go in there hating him for some reason, just know it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
So start Googling the shit out of him because you gotta know what you're getting into.
Yep. I mean, I wonder, everyone's like everybody that goes off of the audition are like, well, shit, I was happily married before I did this movie. And now I'm married to Spider-Man. I'm like, but it's just so weird. And the reason that really struck me is because when you look at Andrew Garfield, right? So when they're talking about their love interest, right? They asked Tobey Maguire, they're like, well, you have someone? He's like, oh, MJ, my MJ. He's like, oh, how is that? He's like, oh, it's complicated. But then he throws in later, though, but we managed to make it work. Well, remember, him and Kirsten Dunst broke up and still had to do the third movie, but they started to become friends later on. So they have a complicated friendship in real life. So that's true to life. And then you have Andrew Garfield, where like, I lost Gwen. Yeah, him and Emma Stone broke up right after that movie. So I'm like, are those tears real? Is he really crying over Emma? And then you have, of course, the ones that are still in a relationship right now are Tom Holland and Zendaya. So I thought that was really interesting. That, if you really look at it on that level, that shit wasn't acting. That was just a reflection of life, entertainment, or imitating art, and vice versa.
And clever writing.
And clever writing. I thought that was really cool. All right, so everybody's fighting, blah blah blah, and they start getting their groove in fighting, and of course, Goblin, the a-hole, comes. And what got me was, this is what I'm saying, there are elements of every movie, both of these characters, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's movie runs in this movie. So in the part where, if you remember the first movie where he was fighting Goblin, he actually gets impaled by his own glider. And he gets basically stabbed, right? Well, in this version, it's about to happen again because, Tom Holland has his glider. He's beating the hell out of him for killing Aunt May. And he's about to stab him. And then Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man Peter Parker, jumps in the way. And I'm thinking the whole time, I'm like, why are you turning your back to Goblin? Why are you turning your back to Goblin? And then he gets stabbed. So he literally got stabbed the way, when they fought, Norman got stabbed in his movie, which I thought was really interesting. And other elements that, for me, that I think tie in Tom Holland with Tobey Maguire is, number one, the fact that Tom Holland Spider-Man chose to walk away from MJ. And that's exactly what happened with Tobey Maguire at the first movie. He's like, I'm choosing to be Spider-Man. I'm choosing to let you go. And if you look at the apartment that Peter Parker, or Tom Holland's Peter Parker, chooses at the end of the movie, tell me that room does not look like the same room that Tobey Maguire moved into. He even had a police scanner, but instead of having the old scanner like he did, he had it on his phone. It was almost like the same damn scene. I'm like the guy saying, month's due at the end of your rent's due at the end of the month. Enjoy. That apartment looked like the same apartment, the same situation that Tobey Maguire was in his movie run. So I thought that was very clever and really, really creative to put him in that situation. So I thought that was interesting. And then in terms of Andrew Garfield, Andrew said when Gwen died, he tried to be good, but he raged. He just raged out. And then I literally felt like that is what happened when, Tom Holland was fighting Goblin. He was raging. If Tobey Maguire had not been there, his Peter Parker hadn't been there and jumped in the way, he would have killed Goblin instead of injecting him with the serum. And all the villains are cured. They're all cured. They're all going back to their time. So they're all cured. But the damage is done. Happy gets arrested. Like, Happy gets there, and they just arrest him for being there. I don't know what the charges are going to be, but they arrest him. So he probably should call Daredevil. And and nobody remembers. Well, no, he was at the funeral, though. He was actually at the gravesite for Aunt May at the end, because he's like, how do you know her? And he's like, through Spider-Man, which is very true, actually, in a way. And then Happy says, me too. So Happy knows Spider-Man, but doesn't know Spider-Man is Peter Parker. So that is very weird and very interesting to me. But, it is what it is. But like so many, like I said, it's like they took these two universes and then just took elements of it. And it's now Tom Holland Spider-Man's current existence. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it. So yeah, that is there's more. Like, I left out some stuff because I'll spend like 5 hours talking about this. Spider-Man again has been one of my, it got me in the comics. It's one of my favorite comic book runs pretty much of all time. It's just what it is. So I always have something to say about Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse and the Spider-Universe. I would love to have Silk, Jessica Drew, a bunch of other Spider-Men incorporated into this universe. It would have been really cool if, like, you just saw, even if you only had Silk, you just literally had somebody say, "Wee, let's make it in." Just something on that level, an Easter egg of them would have been really cool. But it is what it is. All right, you talk about what you liked, because I know that you are not as comic versed as I am, but you saw the movie. So what did you think, babe?
I thought of all the Spider-Man movies I've seen, this has been the best. It engaged me from the first minute to the very last. Like, my eyes never had to leave the screen because I was, getting bored, or it was just a dull moment. With that, I do want to add that maybe I do want to go back and see the other ones, because I'm not versed in Spider-Man, Spider-Verse, anything. So
Spider-Verse.
when I saw the other Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire, I don't think I ever saw Andrew Garfield's movies. But I was just like, but then they switched to Tom Holland. I was like, why are you recasting Spider-Man? Like, why would you ever recast the main actor? Like, did he do something wrong? Was my thought. And so, like,
actually, he did. That's a whole other thing.
But, like, I was just like, so where's the continuity? Like, that's where my brain goes, because I don't know that there are multiple Spider-Man out there. I didn't know that until actually the one movie with.
Till you met your wife.
Yeah,
and I explained it to you.
And Miles Morales' movie, and then all of the Spider-Men were in it. So I thought, like, I enjoyed seeing all of the Spider-Men in it, Spider-Mans, however you want to say
Spider-Mans.
I enjoyed seeing all of the villains in it. And I thought it was really cool that they were able to get all of the original actors to do it again. Because that's hard. Like, that's a lot of people to coordinate. Like, if you've ever coordinated meetings for work with a lot of people, trying to find the time that works for everybody is hard, even just for 1 hour. So I can't imagine getting like 16-hour days for multiple people.
Yeah, I mean, getting all the previous villains come back that were in your movies.
Yeah.
And then the Spider-Man, both other Spider-Man. Yeah, that's a lot.
Like, I thought, like, good job on that.
Oh, and then not to interrupt you, but another thing that I read is that none of them were allowed to read the script. So, like, they were calling them saying, "Will you be in this movie? We have an idea." Sure, can I read the script?
And it could have turned out real bad.
What?
It could have turned out real bad, like the CW's little cameos of everybody, like which we won't get into because it's not worth it. But yeah, I love seeing everybody in this come back. I loved all the fight scenes, all the banter, everything Maria said. Spot on. The writing was fantastic.
Yeah.
From beginning to end.
We judge hard.
Yeah.
We judge hard.
It's hard to please.
I mean, yes, I'm forgiving them for their interpretation of One More Day, because that's the shittiest run they could have gone with. Shittiest.
But I'm thinking maybe, like, he's gonna get his life together.
Well, I mean,
it's not like because they don't know he is that now, and they don't know who he is at all as Peter Parker. Like, it doesn't mean that they can't eventually know him and become friends with him. Well,
I mean, he should. I think with
MJ,
maybe they'll just maybe in the next, like, the movie, it'll be like 2 years, or maybe it'll be 4 years down the road where she's graduated from MIT, and and maybe Peter could just do what you did to me. Like, I didn't know what I was River's girlfriend until River, like, introduced me to someone else. Like, we had been dating for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you're like, "This is my girlfriend, Maria." So that's what Peter's gonna do. You're like, "Hey, you're my girlfriend." She's gonna be like, "What?" Like, yeah. Or she may be like, "I hate people, but you seem cool, so why not?" Like, that would be funny as hell.
I will say that, like, this is just completely non-comic book related, just completely off topic, but 2 really distracting moments for me that just kept coming up because they were in it a lot, even though, like, all the scenes with them were awesome. Okay, it involved Electro's character, and the other involved one of the others. I think we decided it was Lizard. So start with Electro, Jamie Foxx, amazing actor, Academy Award winner, everything.
I know what you're gonna say.
But if you like watch a certain network, I don't remember what it is on a lot. I think it's probably CW because we see that channel on TV mostly.
I think it is CW, yeah.
If you play mobile games where they like inject little commercials all the time, there's a commercial with Jamie Foxx in it that plays over and over and over again. And he comes out there in his like black suit with gold tie and gold
The
buildings around
waterfall,
and the
like everywhere,
He's
yeah.
like the king of sports books. It's whatever. I don't remember
Fantasy
what
football.
it was. I don't remember what the thing was, but it is the king of sport. And it's just like every time he spoke, every time he appeared on screen, I was like, there's the king of sports books. Like, he's not
the
Electro.
whole damn movie, River's like,
He's
it's
not-
King of Sports.
He's not Ray Charles. He's not anything else.
He's
the
not an
king of
Academy
sports
Award
books.
winner or anything. He's just the king of sports.
So that choice, that professional choice to take that commercial was, he should have maybe thought about
for my
how often I
spouse,
would
he
appear.
should have actually just not done that. Anyway,
I mean,
get
or
it.
at least, ask like, how many times will I appear, in commercials?
Oh,
Because
River. No.
that's just who I
And
am.
then the second distraction.
The second distraction was Lizard, I guess. He is played by a man that I cannot pronounce his name, but he is a Welsh actor. And Liam Neeson is, a UK actor as well. So they have that accent. But what was really distracting for me until like he was in his human form was he sounded so much like Liam. Like I could hear him saying, all those lines like
From Taken?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, Peter, now lay down on the ground and now you're going to be taken. I'm like, but don't worry, I have a set of skills and I also have a tail. I'm like,
I mean, it was just like, oh my God.
oh my gosh.
They got Liam Neeson to play. Like Liam Neeson is in everything.
Oh my gosh.
And he's the same thing in everything. So yeah, those two were very distracting for me, but it did not take away too much because it kind of added for me because I'm weird that way. But yeah, this Spider-Man was probably the best. I don't often say that I want a copy of it. Of any movie that we
like,
see,
we're getting the Blu-ray.
but we're definitely gonna own this.
To be fair, I get all of them,
And
just so you know.
I would totally watch it again. Like
Yeah.
this is something that I like. There were several cars, and I wasn't paying attention to who left and who stayed. Like several people left before they even saw.
I don't know why they do that at
trailers.
movies. Like they know Marvel is notorious for post and after credit scenes, and they just like drive off. And like I think there are probably like 50 cars when we were like leaving. There were only like 17 or 18 of us, and I'm like, you're missing shit. Speaking of, let's talk about the first end credit scene with Venom.
Yeah.
So we saw the first Venom movie finally. We have not seen the second one, so but we do understand. Well, I don't understand why he got zapped into this world because technically I don't think he knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So I don't know if it was just opening the floodgates or what. But I love that literally they are in Mexico.
Because the hat says Mexico. That's how we know.
And Eddie's like at a bar and Venom is talking crap. He's like, we are drunk. I love that. We are drunk. We need to go skinny dipping. Like, what is happening? But the bartender is breaking down Endgame. Like, and the snap. And Eddie's like, that didn't happen. Like, so it tells me he's not from that earth because it obviously didn't happen where he's from. So what gets me though is by the end of it, they get sucked back to their world. But then a piece of the symbiont is left on the table at the bar, which means now Prime Earth has a Venom. And I'm like, shit. So we got the really campy. Yes, he's still extremely gross. Yes, he will still eat your face off, but really campy. I kind of give a crap about you because Eddie does. And I guess I'll just, tag along for saving people and only eating bad people ride. But I don't know if the Venom that we're going to get now in Prime because of this goop on the table is going to be like that. So is this going to be something that Peter's going to deal with in the next movie? Is this a precursor or like, is this kind of like a foreboding thing where it says eventually, because we know we're getting 3 more Spider-Man movies, he's going to be Venom at one point. So that is interesting. So I did like that they threw that in, and I felt like they threw that in for a reason. I don't feel like they do things for no reason other than torture us with Mephisto. I don't feel like they did that for a reason.
Maybe messed up if Tom Holland's Spider-Man became.
I mean, that's what happens though. He starts wearing this black suit, not even realizing it's Venom. So
in the whole MJ storyline that he has with her. Like,
well, as long as it's not him doing that crazy ass dance that they had Tobey Maguire do down the street that traumatized everyone for a very long time, it's fine.
Let's watch them again tonight.
And let's not do that. Well, we can watch those, but I think we need to fast forward through that.
No, I can't do that on repeat.
No. Why do you hate me? So anyway, there's that. And then there is what we need to talk about, which is they showed a Doctor Strange 2 trailer. And I'm all in my feelings. So what I thought first that was going to happen. I believed that we were going to get the Doctor Strange run that was written by Mark Waid, where, Doctor Strange loses his powers. He gets back the mantle of being the Sorcerer Supreme, which we know now is from Wong and not from Loki. But he loses all of his magical ability. So he gets in this ship that is made by Stark. And he flies off and he goes from planet to planet and goes to the multiverse. It's where he initially meets America Chavez and her mothers and the Utopian Parallel. And he meets all these aliens. And he's like, teach me magic, mofos, because I lost mine. That's literally what I thought was going to happen in the second movie. But now that I know what he did with the spell, it's created a lot of crap. To be fair, when he was actually trying to hold all of the people back from coming in, you're seeing people with staffs and stuff. I was trying to make out the outlines because I'm like, I know these people. I know these people. These are people probably from space and everywhere, because one of the running jokes in this thing, Peter was talking about, what's the strangest villain you ever faced? Well, I fought a purple alien in space. He's like, well, I did this one colored in black goop. He was talking about Venom. And then and he's like, and Andrew Garfield's like, I never fought an alien. I fought a rhino on a glider back. So I love that they were comparing. It's like whose spider wee was bigger. But Doctor Strange 2, it's interesting because the route I thought they were going to go, they're not going. So what happens is, and this is where it gets really weird, especially if you saw Marvel's What If. So we first see him approach Wanda, and Wanda's first like, okay, yeah, I know what happened in WandaVision, my bad, but I learned my lesson, blah, blah, blah. And Doctor Strange like, I didn't come to lecture you. I need your help, which is interesting because we've always thought that Wanda was going to be the antagonist in this. She was going to be the villain because she wants to get her boys back. Because, she has a Darkhold and she heard their voices in it. And, if we're still in the House of M, which I still believe we're in the House of M. I'm just going to be real with you. So that tracks for me. But what's interesting to me is that they literally have prime Doctor Strange. Like they have the Supreme Strange we got in What If. The one that in What If wanted to save Christine to the point where he literally kept messing with time and then started taking magical creatures and siphoning their magic and then destroyed his world and then tried to make up for it later with the whole Marvel zombies and the whole crap at the end. But it's almost like he had this kind of I don't want to call it redemption arc, but at least he understood basically the error of his ways. But the version of Doctor Strange or Supreme Strange in this looks batshit crazy. Now, this could all be just them messing with us because, again, Mephisto. Ever since the Mephisto thing happened in WandaVision, I trust nothing. I don't trust anything that they do in these trailers anymore. And it could be Wanda because I do know, if I remember correctly, Mordo is going to be in it, and he's Baron Mordo is a villain. So, and I think Wanda teams up with him because she wants to get her sons back, and Wanda seems like the type that will do anything to get her family back, as we've seen in WandaVision. So I do have a feeling that Doctor Strange is going to be fighting Scarlet Witch, which I'm here for. And I'm also here for the fact that fighting a Nexus being is probably you got a man who is hell bent on protecting reality, and then you got a girl who can alter reality. That is a really interesting concept. And if Spider-Man can use geometry to whoop your butt, I don't think you're gonna fare well against both Wanda and Mordo. So I think the stakes are going to be extremely high in this. We did see Christine and Strange have a wedding. and apparently it's going to be interrupted. I was reading some of the forums because I like looking at the Reddit forums and like some of the nerd boards, and they were saying that Gargantus was probably going to interrupt their wedding, which that tracks. I'm fine with that. But how the actual trailer looks, you see like America Chavez, the back of her. So you see her, the trademark jacket that America Chavez has. You see her almost get hit by a bus and him splitting the bus in half. You see Wanda in her Scarlet Witch, costume or uniform, whatever you want to call it. And she's literally casting a hex over. I couldn't tell if it was the Darkhold or if it was something else. But to me, that shows me right there that she's doing stuff for herself. So I don't know. I have never been this excited for a Doctor Strange movie because I was like, okay. Now, to be fair, they are reshooting a lot of this movie, and I don't know why. I mean, I don't know if it's something with COVID. They couldn't get everybody. I don't know if they were like, didn't like the direction. Maybe they did a focus group and they're like, we're not feeling it. So they're like, let's just go back to basics and film the whole damn thing over. So I would love to know what the original take of this movie was. Because if they're refilming it and rebranding it, because it seems like that's what's happening, and what we got in this theater could still be in the movie, or quite frankly, may not be. We may be getting excited, and some of the key elements we're seeing in this trailer, which would not be the first time this has happened in a movie, by the way, may not even be in it. But what I saw, what they have right now, this movie looks badass. I mean, this movie looks badass. So I am super effing excited about this movie. Something else that has nothing to do with it that's related. Me and River were like, oh, Tom Holland's in another movie. And we're like, cool. He's looking for treasure. Oh, cool. He's an effing Uncharted. We own this game. I'm like, he's the lead character in an Uncharted live action movie. I'm like, it's not enough to be Spider-Man. You gotta be an Uncharted as well. You do you, Tom Holland. That was the first preview they showed. Because the first we're like, we thought with Spider-Man starting, he's like climbing out of the airplane. I'm like, what the hell is he doing in the airplane? I'm like, huh. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, overall, we loved this movie. Loved this movie. Again, only Maria, not River. Only Maria is still in her feelings and this is only because One More Day is the shittiest comic for me personally ever written. There's some shitty comics out there with a lot of controversial shit in it. This for me was the shittiest comic ever written because Joe Quesada is a toddler who didn't like Mary Jane. So
you don't have a copy anymore, do you?
I have a hard copy of it. I jump on it when I'm stressed. I bought a hard copy of One More Day to jump on it and beat the hell out of it. Just
have to read
I'm
it.
stressed. Huh?
I'm gonna have to read
No,
it.
you don't, baby. Happy wife, happy life. Don't do that. Anyway, you don't ever have to. Ever. All right, so let's jump into it because I know there are comments and we have not been answering them. So let's start off. Hi, Ryan. Hi, Nicholas. Hi, Ray. Hi, Chris. Okay, let's see. I love Doc Strange. Don't we all? Don't we all? I love how he was like, this is why I don't have kids. This is why I don't have kids. This is why right here. It looks like they're going down redemption for Wanda, and I hope they don't do like the Arrowverse. Oh. Yeah, because the Arrowverse just likes to have every villain have a redemption arc and be good, no matter how bad. And no matter what they do, they're just instantly forgiven. It's like, yeah, but we don't kill her. No. I hope they don't do a Flash Armageddon. You're right. That would suck. The trailer has got me inspired to create new original character for both Marvel and DC, but I'm a bit unsure how far these OC lives will lead aside from causing general havoc. I mean, I think you should just write a book in general, Nicholas. I didn't know that Strange is not the active Sorcerer Supreme. It is Wing since the blip. Yep. He was like, I like it. He was like living his best life, and like there's like snow all on the inside of the manor because one of the portals, I guess a snowstorm came in and he didn't reinforce it, and so snow was like everywhere. You got two people in there just shoveling up the snow. Oh, that was funny as hell. Hello, my lovelies. I saw this in IMAX with my love last night. awesome. We would love to see it in IMAX, but you see, we live in the state of Tennessee where the COVID cases are still very high because our city never gave a damn about us, and so people they don't wear masks. Half of people probably aren't vaccinated, probably have no intention of being vaccinated, go to parties, go to rallies, go to open flea markets, go to freaking music festivals in the middle of the street. And so I'm not going to sit in an IMAX theater with these idiots. I'm just not doing it. So it's just what it is. Just found out in an interview prior to the movie about Strange not being the active story. Okay. Explaining Wong and Shang-Chi. I mean, I'm serious. I think that's what he was doing. He was going to karaoke. Will you be reading the comments? Yes. Bring it on, Maria. Hello, spouse. Hi, spouse.
Hi.
Spouse's name is River. I need to put your name on here. I keep forgetting to do that. Nice knowing JJ. JJJ. Yeah, he was doing it. He was on there. And I like to say that Spider-Man is crap. It's my voice acting roots, guys. I can't help it. But I love the fact that he spinned everything to it as always Spider-Man's fault. I went to get my paper this morning and it wasn't out there. Spider-Man took it. Tried to get milk at the grocery store and it was gone. Blasphemous, people.
My coffee at Starbucks was cold when I got
completely
there.
Cold. I like how he was like, he literally is sitting behind the Bugle, but instead of it being the Bugle newspaper like it is in Tobey Maguire's world and technically Andrew Garfield's world, it's literally the bugle.net. So it's all internet. He's sitting in front of a green screen. It's fucking hilarious. I wanted Matt to be more on the show. We all want Matt. We want Daredevil to have a big role. Well, Matt is a hell of a lawyer. He is. He says he's a hell of a lawyer, which is kind of funny because he's Christian, so he doesn't normally use the word hell and you know.
If being a lawyer gives you that dexterity, because he said the reason why he could do that was because he was a hell of a lawyer. It's like this movie was a PSA for going into law school and for going into STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Well, plus he also used the reference of hell because he's Daredevil.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go. That could have been the line that broke the internet. So at first, the friend was supposed to be a goblin in the future, but there has been a switch in there that talks that he will be a magic user. Huh. I want Ned to be a magic user. I mean, they need to do something else with him. I mean, he can't just be the Cisco of this scenario. No, he needs to have more. And the only reason I'm saying that is because when Peter was talking, and you know, he did show his friend a little loyalty. Remember, the Flash Thompson wrote a book called Flashpoint, by the way, which I was like, really, dude? Really? He was basically proclaiming himself to be Spider-Man's best friend or Peter Parker's best friend, which to me was interesting because he said that on television and he still got into MIT. Question mark. But anyway, I thought it was pretty much interesting that it was interesting that Ned is kind of taking the back seat now, because even when he was talking about he was being interrogated, he said, so what did you do when MJ told you that Peter was Spider-Man? He's like, I knew long before MJ. Like, yeah, the best friend. I mean, they like to say, I hate to say this phrase, bro before home. But I mean, in this case, it is that way. It's the reverse, should I say. It is the girl before the best friend. And so he needs to have something else to occupy his time. Maybe they're going to pull him in to also aid in Shang-Chi. So you never know. But I thought it was interesting. Hi, River, gracious deity of balance. Are you a gracious deity of balance? Or maybe he's just telling you to have one. Ray is cool. Hi, Maria, Earth Mama of consciousness and creativity. Thank you. Thank you. I'm also a fire sign. I'm Sagittarius. River's a water sign. Even that's why I love water as my favorite element, though, which is really ironic. Toby was always my Spider-Man, and Andrew was always will always be the favorite. So Tobey Maguire is always my Spider-Man too. I mean, well, to be fair, he's my Peter Parker. His Spider-Man was okay. He was definitely Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield was funnier as Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire was. He was better at cracking jokes, but he was too cool to be Peter Parker. He was the kid that was emo. He was playing I could see him playing hacky sack like in the 90s, swinging around on this, he's on a skateboard. He was the misunderstood youth. He wasn't nerdy enough. He wasn't, bullied enough for me. Like Tobey Maguire, like they just bullied the shit out of him until he got muscles and was like, I can fight back, with mofos. So that one, and then this Tom Holland's Tobey Maguire only seemed to have Ned as a friend, so he really wasn't bullied that much either, actually. So yeah, it's a thing. Peter Parker, no sense of forethought at all. True. Not any version. I love how Andrew Garfield also was like, I've always wanted brothers. I love you. And they're like, thank you. Like, thanks. Sorry, not sorry, Tom. I want University of Genius, even though I heard there will be a flash forward and Peter will be deep in the university next time we see him, hopefully in grad school. I'm hoping something works out for Peter Parker. I mean, I don't know. If nobody knows Peter Parker, Spider-Man, it's almost like nobody knows Peter Parker in general. So does he have a transcript? Did he go to school? Because they don't know who he is. So I mean, obviously he can't have a high school, transcript, because then that would mean MJ and Ned would know who he is. It's interesting that instead of the spell being nobody will know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, it seems to have morphed into nobody will know Peter Parker, period. So that means he has nothing. I mean, honestly, how is he going to work? He has no ID. He has no way of proving who he is. It's very weird.
It all works out in Arrowverse.
Well, Arrowverse is different. They have the CW bank account. You don't have to work. I'm like, hopefully, and should it follow the cartoon, then maybe we could see MJ trigger her X gene via trauma or comics across Bobby Drake as a stumbling student. Yeah, they do it. If they do it where she's injected with what was it? They made her into a mutant in the comic run. It was right before the Death of Spider-Man run, where she gets injected and becomes like this big mutated thing, and Johnny Storm and them have to help her. I'll have to go back and read it. It's been a minute. Mutants have been introduced through Sony and Venom franchise, so why can't MCU get it together? They're getting it together. They're just trying to make that money. They gotta drag that out. We can't have mutants and stuff in here until we have the main movies. So I'm sure they're planning it. I'm sure it's in the outline. MCU has introduced one class of mutants. They have showed us a lot of mutants, but we want the mutants. I know we want the X-Men, the X-Force, the Excalibur, all the ones that we've been missing. It's going to be a minute. And may really be irking my nerves with this Barry Allen-esque logic, like use common sense. Thank you. I was like, May, why? I'm like, why? You've been so smart and up to this point. Why would you tell this child this? This is not. I love how they were like, when they were first interrogating him, they're like, we're going to arrest you for child endangerment. He's underage and you've been letting him running around as a vigilante. That's irresponsible. I was like, finally, somebody said something about that, because that is absolutely true. It's just like Xavier. Technically, he should be on many counts of child endangerment with his school for mutants, sending them into battle. My child warriors. I kind of feel like we are seeing the ramifications of Loki, because the TVA would have had a field day with cleaning this mess up. Yep. Well, they go down. I'm like, damn, the whole damn city are variants. I'm like, damn. I kind of feel like we're seeing. Oh, sorry. Yep, they sure did. Please, no, not the godforsaken comic issue. One more day. Yep, wasn't it the whole point to save Aunt May from dying, who was already stepping into the pearly gates, only to still get murdered? Thank you. She was 150. Let her go. Let her go. Because by her living, we got the creepier storyline in Superior Spider-Man, where Doc Ock was still attracted to her in Peter's body. Ew. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, in the end, and Mary Jane and promiscuous Peter lost their marriage and all their connection bond. Yep, don't get me started with that. Don't get me started. And she technically, it was implied she was pregnant, because the spirit of their daughter was talking to him before they made that choice. So he lost his wife and he lost his future baby, which had been little May Parker. So no one knows Peter is Spider-Man. So did Spider-Man fight against Thanos? Who knows? He knows he did. Thanos probably, if he was still around, wouldn't know it. He'd be like, remember me? Nope. Like, not at all. No clue. I think the connection of Peter and Spider-Man has been suppressed, like on Buffy with Glory and her altar. Probably. I think something's going to happen for him to be reinvented. But again, I think this Spider-Man is probably going to be more with, I know people hate the terminology, but probably in the Young Avengers with Kate Bishop and Yelena and all the others. The memory spell was from last movie, and right. I start on the spell, not from Infinity War. Wait, the memory spell was from last movie, and right, the start of the spell, not from Infinity War. I don't think they did a memory spell in the last movie. I don't remember that. Bye, Aunt May. See Aunt May. Like, I think she had a husband named Ben, but I'm thinking he died prior before Spider-Man when Pete was a baby. Okay. I mean, obviously this Uncle Ben was not anything.
I remember like hearing of a Ben. Like a long time
So
ago.
you like from
but
May?
He wasn't, but he wasn't prominent. Could be conflating with other.
Because I mean, Peter never even mentions Uncle Ben. I remember, it just seems like he had no relationship with him whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think he really did. But
and even when Toby and Andrew were like from Uncle Ben, and he's like, he had a look on his face like, who the fuck's that? The same look they had about the Avengers is what he had on his face when they mentioned Uncle Ben. So I thought that was interesting. I like this MJ more than the redheaded actress with all the doppelgangers from the 90s series, which is really funny, Ray, because in the interviews Zendaya did for this movie, she has the red hair, the actual MJ hair in the interviews, which I thought was really, really funny. But it's the thing. I love that they implied Miles Morales. But again, guys, as somebody who is whole ass mixed, I still call him biracial or mixed because he is. His mother's Puerto Rican. But it was when Electro was saying, when I envisioned Spider-Man, I thought you were black. And Andrew Garfield was like, oh, sorry. And he's like, it's all right. I know somewhere out there in the world there's a black Spider-Man. And I'm like, there's a half black one and half Puerto Rican. So you have there. I'm like, we're still waiting on the full black Spider-Man. I want a Peter Parker to appear that's black. That would have been cool. It would have been cool when Andrew Garfield was apologizing for not being a black Spider-Man. The black Spider-Man that Electro needed and wanted. And then one just came up and said, there's me. Black Peter Parker. I would have died. And have Andrew Garfield be like, brother. I'd be like, I'm not your brother, man. I need you to let it go. I love Andrew and Toby's banter with each other. Because when he got stabbed and he was holding him and Tom Holland's Peter went and hugged them both. Toby just got fucking stabbed. And then Andrew's like, you're in a lot of pain, aren't you? He's like, yep. It was funny as shit. But it was brief touched on during a conversation by Ned and Pete. Huh. Okay. So obviously Uncle Ben was not, he was the uncle, but he didn't have, it seemed like Aunt May was the one that had the most impact on his life. I know there are two different characters, but I like this one more depth-wise. I love all the Peters. I think there's something different about all three of them. And I just love all of them. I love how doting they made Tom Holland on Zendaya's MJ. He's got a little cut. He's like, are you okay? And then even when he went to see her again, he's looking at the Band-Aid and he's like, are you okay? Like the guy is just whipped. He's just whipped. He is very whipped. Now, if Peter can beat Doctor Strange, Wanda better destroy him. Seriously. Even though water's over there. I'm dying, guys. Oh, wait, it's over here. I have a huge jug, guys. I got the water of truth. I actually have a really cool water bottle. I don't know why I don't bring it in here. Okay. Want some water?
No.
You drink some anyway. You're gonna hydrate. My brain was like, Doc, this is your chance. Take it. I know. There's so many things that I thought. Like Doc said he was hanging over Mount Everest for a while. And I believe that. But I kept thinking this man is supposed to be all powerful. He got beat by geometry. There should have been a way he could have got there faster. I don't know. That whole thing. Just like in the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Oh, Lord. There is no universe where Spider-Man can beat a Doctor Strange. Did I not say that in the car? I'm like, this is all MCU. You have to understand, guys. You have to understand. The MCU has reinvented the wheel. And what I mean by that, they take pivotal characters and they make them have no connection to each other. They've done it in Hawkeye recently. Somebody who was very instrumental in Clint's life, not spoiler, is no longer instrumental or even a concept in his life. Look at Black Widow and Winter Soldier. The only connection that they've revealed between those two in the MCU is that he was the one that gave her the scar on her side. I think it was on her side or stomach or whatever. He cut her basically. But in reality, they were the ones that were banging and she was with the most in all of the comics. I mean, they almost got married many times because that was her true love. Like they are like literally the true loves of each other, even though she's very promiscuous with everybody else on the team and other teams. She always comes back to Winter Soldier. So it's just the MCU just says, we don't need to make these connections. We don't care. So they reinvent the wheel. They just take everything. Like, and then if you watch my last Hawkeye review, you'll see that I literally stressed about the connection between Yelena and Kate Bishop at the expense of the connection between Kate Bishop and her BFF in the comics, America Chavez. So there's a lot of things that Kevin Feige and their group are doing that I do like. And there are some things that they're doing that I'm like, really? That's not accurate. And it's just something I have learned to accept. So Spider-Man beating Doctor Strange with geometry, that's just an MCU. It's an MCUism. That's what that is. In the MCU, he can. Just saying. Doctor Strange was the only reason they beat the Mad Titan. True. Oh, hell, I got a list of stuff that Doctor Strange has aided people. I mean, Psylocke wouldn't be where she is if Doctor Strange hadn't intervened. I mean, there's a lot. There is a lot that could be said about that. Peter can never take Dormammu. I mean, in the MCU, never say never. I mean, when you are the title character, you can do whatever the hell you want. You have plot armor. Yes, in the interviews, Ned is on track to be a magic user. I am completely down with that. I'm completely down with that. Multiverse and Spider-Man movie was cool. I like that they're starting to expand in it. So I will say this. I think we got a better grip of, and I guess grip is probably a bad word. We got a better look into the multiverse in Loki. Because Loki really stressed how different the multiverses are. I like it. They're continuing. And I think the second Doctor Strange movie is where we're probably going to see the most. Because again, America Chavez is from the Utopian Parallel. And that's a completely different planet, a completely different universe. But she has the ability to punch and kick through multiverses and travel through them. So I'm really curious to see how that's going to play out. Hello, Kevin. How are you? I just hope this is just for this movie. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm hoping they get over this stuff really quickly. Hello, River. Sorry I didn't remember your name, but, well, you said it, so you're good. Hello, D. Marie Porras. Oh, dear God, don't let Ned near Wanda because I feel like he would be like, so you mean to tell me you're going to teach me a crash course in magic, but leave when you feel like it and not progressing? Yeah, I could see that being a thing. I could see him being a hero worshiper over her, honestly, or having a crush on her. And the next thing he knows, Doctor Strange might use him as a possible ally, or should I say a pawn in fighting Mad Wanda. Yeah. That part broke my heart. Oh, them forgetting Peter. Yeah, that whole thing was sad. I was in my feelings completely. I had the same feelings I had when Toby looked at MJ and said he didn't care about her because he didn't want her to get hurt. So he pretended not to love her. And it was really sad. Ned has annoyed me to no end since Homecoming. I don't mind Ned. Ned is trying to fight for his place as Peter's BFF. I get it. And now that I'm going to say it, I'm married. We're all adults here, hopefully. But JJ is powerful. I'm like, so when you get a swing of that sometimes, or if you're on the other side, you know what I'm talking about. The prospect of your partner versus your BFF, the partner is always going to win. And so Ned's seeing it. He's seeing that Peter's he's deferring more to MJ than he is to Ned. And it's not really good for him because he also is competing with the Flash by the Flash saying, tell people I'm your best friend, and pretending to be the best friend in the interview when Ned was talking and things like that. He's insecure. I mean, that actually is very realistic, honestly. Wanda is a novice witch with a crap load of power. I don't think she could teach magic at her current level. Her power transcends the use of spellcraft. She's very new to a whole new science and spellcraft. True. She doesn't know the witch aspect. She just recently found out she is Scarlet Witch. She doesn't understand she's a Nexus being. She knows she has unlimited abilities. She just doesn't understand it. That would be better off with Wong. Yeah, I think Wong or Nico. I agree with that. I hope they bring Nico into this, and I hope it's the same actress who played her in the Hulu version in The Runaways. That would be cool. That's why I'm wondering if this America Chavez is the version that's raised by the female version of Loki, then she's the adopted sister of the Nico of that version. And then they could bring Nico in as her sister. Just a thought. But then I guess technically that wouldn't be the Hulu version. Or it would be the same actress in the MCU versions, like they're doing with Daredevil and the other character they just introduced on Hawkeye. So I'm trying not to spoil it in case people didn't see it. That is a weird coincidence that all three men have dated in real life their female leads. I know. I'm telling you, that is in the contract. Be aware. We're not telling you to date them, but you will. I'm like, you will. I love me, Tina. If you can take on Morgan. Oh, Lord. Morgan Le Fay, you are a heavy hitter. I agree. Just saw it, loved it, laughed, cried, clapped. I mean, in that order, makes sense. Not with power, but with strategy and cunning. I think that the term should be with great power comes a lot of regret. I'm like, lots of regrets. I feel it's way too far in the game for Zendaya and Tom dating not to be real. This specific movie didn't even need the publicity. Actors also fall in love with co-stars a lot. Just another Tuesday. No, it's just the irony of the fact that everyone in the Spider-Man and female love interest role have become an item. All three couples. I bet you they were probably like sitting in the back, and the producer, I think Avi was on in the last movie too, and so was Amy Pascal. She probably was like, "Mother, I told these mother-ups not to get together." And I'm like, "What is wrong with you?" Like,
they're probably nervous when they were casting.
Yeah, they're like, "We already know.
Bet it's gonna happen again."
Already know. Well, I mean, if you cast a leading lady and they have a lot of chemistry, I mean, sometimes that just happens.
You love chemistry in a movie.
Yeah,
when
it just happens. Yep. I feel it's way too far in the game. Okay, we already did that one. Aunt May's death scene really got me. My heart. It got me. It was so reminiscent of all the times we watched Uncle Ben die. But at the same time, I was like, see, woman, this is why you don't do this shit. That's why you let them go home. Had you not said that to Peter, Peter would have been like, push the button. Nothing would have been, yeah, they would have still known who he was. But, and he still would have dealt with all that BS. But his aunt would be there. None of the other crap would have happened.
Happy would have his home.
Happy would have his home. Wouldn't be in jail. I mean, there's so many things, No, I'm getting scared and hyped for Multiverse of Madness. I feel like she's going to say a thrice damn words, and we may up seeing Damon Telstorm or his sister Santana instead of Mephisto. Well, Mephisto is literally the character we are never getting, that they will always tease. I'm waiting for us to see. Actually, you know what? We should have really looked hard in Spider-Man to see if there was a Mephisto. Because they had Daredevil, and that, I guess we'd be like, oh, they brought in Daredevil to let us know that's another Red Devil that is not Mephisto. I'm like, but I feel like every movie they keep saying, look at Loki or the TV shows. Look at Loki in the church. You see that church window over there? That red devil that looks just like Mephisto in the comics. We're not gonna talk about it. I'm like, every effing movie. So I'm wondering the Multiverse of Madness how they're gonna sneak Mephisto into that one, because we know they are. Because they hate us. That's what that is. They're like, we know you comic book fans want it, and we don't want you to have it. So we're gonna give you that little crumb, and then we'll take it away, and then we're gonna take a dump on you. That's literally it. So, but yeah, I do believe the three little words. She can't say no more mutants yet, but I've always thought she could say no more magic, and that would mess up his world, and then that would give us a comic run where he loses his powers and has to go find them again. Just a thought. Do you think this was better than Endgame? Hell yeah. At every level. Every level. I feel it's way too far in the game. I think I already read this. Somehow I just jumped up and I don't know how that happened. I'm sorry. I feel the spell was interesting way of rebooting and making Tom Holland's Peter more mature. Setting him up for a darker story going forward. I mean, he has 3 movies. I mean, the darker story he's probably going to have next is Venom, because that goop is on that table in Mexico. So it's going to make its way to him, because if you remember, Eddie said, oh, I feel like I need to go and meet this Spider-Man. And then Venom's like, no, let's go skinny dipping. But the goop on the table may still have that, saying, hey, I need to go find Spider-Man. I feel like that entire scene was set up for us to know that we're going to have a Venom at some point in those next 3 movies. And I'm okay with that. And then we're probably going to get their version of Eddie. So it's a thing. Yes, give us a Spider-Woman. Please give us a Spider-Woman. There's been talks that this was the end game for the Spider-Man current franchise. Of course it is. Absolutely. Now, what that means going forward, I don't know. I love that they established, though, that Tobey Maguire and his storyline, him and MJ, are making their relationship work. So they're not married, which is stupid at this point. But they're not married, but they're still together. This is complicated. And then, of course, Andrew Garfield still hasn't got with MJ, which is so weird because if you think about his story run, they filmed scenes with Shailene Woodley as MJ, but they cut all of the MJ, all her MJ parts out of the movie because they took it away from Gwen's death. So he did have all of these scenes where he had MJ as a neighbor. And they implied that that was the next relationship, which is technically what happened in the comics. You know, they had a little love rivalry, you know, and he chose Gwen, and then, you know, Goblin throws her off the building. He, you know, technically Spider-Man kills her when he grabs her ankle too hard, and the kind of like the pressure and the fallback snaps her neck. And he never got over that in a way, even though they retconned it a little bit where she did die, but she is having an affair with Norman and had twins. It was really weird. But MJ was the person that consoled him when he was grieving, and then he ends up going out with her, and then they eventually get married. So, you know, there was a time they broke up once. No, they broke up twice. And once he got with Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, which was very, very healthy relationship, by the way. You know, let's just face it, Peter is a hoe. He's been with a lot of women, but MJ was always endgame. So I don't know. I kind of feel like having Tobey Maguire establish that relationship, having Andrew Garfield being told by Andrew to try to love again, meaning he's going to eventually run into his MJ. And then having this Peter Parker have his MJ, unfortunately, one more effing date. So I think Zendaya is a very big actress. She won an Emmy. She's doing very well. Apparently, she's going to be in a sequel for Dune. Obviously, she's doing a lot of movies. You don't want to get rid of an actress that's that hot. You know, she's very popular right now. So you're going to milk that shit for what it's worth. So this is not Zendaya's last turn in the Spider-Man universe. So I think something's going to happen. Now, whether she's going to end up getting an Iron Man suit or getting a Spider-Man suit in the future, who knows? They better not make her Silk. I will tell you that. Because I know they like to do their own stuff, but they will be canceled. Canceled. I think this is the best MCU Spider-Man by far, next to Into the Spider-Verse, and Spider-Man 2 is right up there as Spider-Man film I will watch. I will tell you, because technically I don't think Into the Spider-Verse is considered canon MCU. So you can love that separately. So your statement saying this is the best MCU Spider-Man movie, you're absolutely correct. And to be fair, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's movies are not MCU movies either. So they're not in the same universe. So yeah, this is definitely out of the 3. Out of Homecoming, Far From Home, and then now it's No Way Home. This is the best movie out of the 3, which is so hard for movies to do. Normally, the first one's the best. The second one's okay. And then the third one sucks. All 3 of these movies were good. So I mean, yes, they changed a lot of stuff. I still would have preferred them not to use the Spider-Man Noir suit in the last movie, because I really love Spider-Man Noir, and I would love to have the emo version of Peter walking around dark as day, just emo as hell. It would have been great, especially if he looked like Tom Holland. Having Tom Holland, who's like really hyper and jumps all over the place, and you know his voice is very uppity peppy, and having somebody just like with his face just be like, let's go out fight somebody. I'm so sucks. Everything just sucks. I'm like, damn Goblin, damn, always coming for me. Damn Thanos, snap, but fucking girlfriend don't remember me. I mean, just it would have been, to me, that would have been really cool. But whatever, MCU, you do you, boo. I feel Andrew kind of low-key was given the best performance of his career. He was so likable. He was actually more emo in his movies. I felt like he was in line auditioning for Spider-Man Noir and Amazing Spider-Man. And now he was like, I got friends. But I love, you could see he was still tormented over Gwen. And I love that was happening, because even he was saying, when she died, I raged. He said, I don't want you to end up like me. And you could see in his eyes, he was when he caught MJ though, I was like, wow. And he was crying. And I'm like, yeah, they did a damn good job with that. I love that. I always wish I had brother scenes, laugh out, and how brotherly a dynamic was. I just love how they looked at him. And they're like, thank you. Yeah, thanks. He was like, okay, dude. I'm like, Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker was like, we might need to have a drink and a conversation because something wrong with you. You would look, just like, if you really think about this, it wasn't Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Peter that went and stopped Tom Holland's Peter from killing Goblin. It was just Tobey Maguire. Andrew Garfield was like, man, kill his ass. I'm like, I don't want you to be like me, but I understand, bro. I did it last week. I'm like, I know where you at. With the Flash this week, and this, I was like, the bad people die, you aren't killing them. And then when May died, I was like, this is what I meant. I know, right? This is why you let Reverse Flash go. I think that people in the Armageddon should have watched this movie and then be like, you know what? You're absolutely right, Barry. We need to go kill these people. It's so funny that Barry, the Care Bear, I don't want to dive into that world, but the Care Bear was completely okay killing Reverse Flash. But every other conversation, like, we don't kill people. I judge you harshly. Crazy. Laugh out. Surprise! You are my partner. Oh, you're talking about River? Yes, that is part of our wonderful love story. I literally did not realize this. I think we have been out 5 times, 5 dates, 5 dates. And I was walking up, we were going to your job and we were walking up the stairs, and one of your coworkers came down the stairs and you're like, this is my girlfriend, Maria. And I was like, oh, I guess I am. And that was it. That was how that was established. I was like, oh.
An anime story.
I mean, and here we are almost 6 years later, married. So something happened. I feel Peter is a sloppy, inexperienced hero. He is young. He totally could have prevented May's death by telling her not to be at the apartment that night. I hope he learns from it. Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, I don't want to judge him harshly, because every version of Peter that started out as Spider-Man was irresponsible and did stuff that got somebody killed. I mean, even if you think about it, his Uncle Ben died because he didn't stop the thief that was stealing money from the club that he was trying to win money to buy a car to impress Mary Jane, for, I think in the original one that was Liz Allen, because Liz Allen was actually the girl he was into in high school. And then he had a crush on Betty Brant when he was interning at the Daily Bugle. Then he met Gwen in college. And then he met MJ because he would never meet MJ. She just showed up at the door and was like, hey, Tiger, look at me. I'm hot. You won the jackpot. And he was like, holy shit, I've been dodging that. And then it became I'm attracted to Mary Jane because she's hot, but I love Gwen because she's pretty and smart and she's good at science. I don't know what to do. And then he chose Gwen, even though her dad, I think, was a commissioner and hated Spider-Man. So that was a thing. They had a very interesting relationship. See, I like I said, I've read almost every version, every comic run of Spider-Man. So there's so much I know. There's so many things I've forgotten. So love Spider-Man. So I'm wondering if we are ever going to meet Angelica and Bobby in the MCU, because I'm waiting for their interactions. Should they do time skips? I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know who they're bringing in. And just think about it. Now that we have the expanded world of X-Men and, all the mutants, should I say, I don't want to just say X-Men. And we have the expanded universes of bringing in the Fantastic Four. They can choose who they bring in. They can pick and choose who they want. And unfortunately, I'm going to disclaimer this. They may be introduced in a way that you don't recognize. So I'm just going to put that out there, that it may be, a complete reinvention, because in Hawkeye, Kate Bishop's backstory is nothing like it is in the comics. It is completely nothing like it. There are elements that are similar, but nothing. Her backstory, like, she has a whole sister that is not in the show. She has an older sister that is not even, she has no siblings in the MCU. They got rid of Susan. So yeah, even if you're excited for it, does not mean it's going to be something that you are going to recognize. I just have to disclaimer that. Same thing happens in the Arrowverse all the time. As soon as May said with great power, I was like, she's dead. Like, so did I. I was like, hell, she's a goner. Like, why? Why? I want to watch this again. Yeah, we were actually, when we were at the drive-in, we realized that it was playing because it starts normally the drive-in. I don't know if you guys have drive-ins where you live. You get 2 movies, so you go in and it's like the first movie plays and then they play the second. So I think right across from us was the new Resident Evil movie, and then they were still doing Halloween Kills, which is what it is.
One car was left,
and there was only one car watching it. It was so funny. Everybody was on Spider-Man, but I think Spider-Man played from 7 to 9. And then it's gonna or 9:30, I believe it was, and then it plays again at 10 to 12:30. So we could have sat there and watched it again, but we live in Memphis, Tennessee. Look up our crime rate. We weren't trying to die, so the earlier we can get back in our house, better it is. Because unfortunately, where the drive-in is an area of town. If you're from Memphis, Summer Avenue on a Friday night. You don't want to be out on a Friday night on Summer Avenue, especially after 9 or 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Sorry.
You might end up in a suitcase.
You might end up worse than that. But yeah, we did read it. We saw an article lately where they found somebody in a suitcase, like the remains of somebody here in a suitcase. So, yeah, it's a thing. I think it has something to do with the symbiont. What do you think has to do with the symbiont? I'm sorry. Can they just give us Mephisto? No. Like, not at all. Maybe Wanda is astral projecting and triggering Strange. That would be funny. I like how she was like, if you saw the end of WandaVision, she heard her sons and she's like, part of her's having tea and the other part is like with the Darkhold just sitting here going through it and like absorbing. So you may be correct that the apple picking Wanda in the trailer, she's out there. She's either cutting apples or she's doing some kind of gardening. Is probably not, either that's her real body and her actual, her other self is astral projecting still the Darkhold, or I don't know. That's what I think might be happening. I think that Wanda will be with him and then maybe Scarlet Witch will be doing all the dark shit, which would be interesting because they showed that she can do that. And I feel like they don't do things, unless it's for a reason in the MCU with their plot line. So you may actually be, you may be kind of breaking down a plot point of the entire movie that there's going to be Wanda and then there's going to be Scarlet Witch and they're going to be working, not, I guess, independently, technically controlled by her, but her darker, side that wants her boys back and wants to find Vision, or I guess at this point it's White Vision, and is going to be doing her own agenda separately from the Wanda that's helping Doctor Strange, which would be interesting. I'm saying I believe you're in House of M. We are absolutely House of M. Yes, I knew we would see Evil Strange again. I mean, he even had his hair slicked back. I'm like, they are doing the Tobey Maguire Venom. I can't handle it. I'm like, no, don't do the greased down look. I need you to stop. Wanda, I screamed so loud as soon as Strange said her name. Yep. Well, I mean, she's the only reality bender they have. I mean, there's nobody else that he could actually go to. The reshoots are cameo based apparently, and it was shot in England in January, and the restrictions were tough. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure what they were actually reshooting because there were some news articles that said they are reshooting a lot of the movie. So I don't know. I would definitely be looking forward to seeing the Doctor Strange 2 trailer. Yep, it is awesome. It's those thrice damn words I'm scared of. So she says, I'm tired of the world always taking each and every single thing from me. Change must happen. It needs to be different in that outburst. Yep. I'm telling you, she can't say no more mutants, but she can say no more magic. And that will affect a lot of people that are magic based. So that's the thing. Her chaotic hex magic expands at the shockwave because unfortunate ripple effects everywhere expose the mutant population as a whole and brings a physical anchor to many spiritual entities. I will tell you, I will not be upset if the effects of what happens in Doctor Strange 2 leads to the X-Men or the mutants arriving. I will not be unhappy. Land, mystical forces, and deities. Having Aunt May say the most iconic line in Peter makes a lot of sense and fits the iteration of Spider. It fits this iteration of Spider-Man, absolutely. But I mean, again, we're talking about Aunt May. Aunt May married Doc Ock. I mean, in the comics, they were a thing. Think about that. Think about it. And then the Aunt May that she's supposed to be is closer to the run of Peter Parker when she actually was younger, but she wasn't this young. I think she was like in her 50s, and she would do yoga. And she would have like wine tastings at the house, you know, and they didn't seem to be as poor, which is interesting because I like how Peter was like, I'm the most famous person in the world and I'm still broke. Like, hell of a lawyer, similar to I'm a hell of a butler. Yeah, Alfred, nobody's cooler than Alfred. Come on. I want our Jameson Holla millennials. I kept hearing Tenzin getting mad at Spider-Man when JJ was talking. Oh, Tenzin. I can see that. I can see that. I love when Ned was talking about best friends to Toby and Andrew. I love that scene. I forgot that one. Did you have a Ned? Yeah. Well, no. Did you have a best friend? Yeah. He died in my arms after he tried to kill me. It was like, I promise you, I will never turn evil and try and kill you, Peter. Thanks. Can you run the sample? I like Toby mutations more, so it was like him with X-Men and like him not needing web shooters. Yeah, I mean that was literally the one thing they focus on. They was like, you can make him organically, and Andrew was like, I gotta make mine in a lab. You know how expensive that is. That was funny. And like he was like, I don't really feel comfortable talking about my web shooters. He's like, oh, he's like, yeah, well, we're just like hype because we don't have that. And I'm like, this is just wrong. This whole conversation is wrong. You're a Pisces, awesome. I'm a Sagittarius. River is a Cancer. So there you go. We are fire and water. Technically, we are two signs that should never be together, but we work. Probably because I love water signs so much, and River loves me. That's what that is, right, baby? I love you. Toby and Andrew's best friends. Hopefully won't be Tom's fate with Ned. I hope not. March 20th, water sign Pisces. Awesome. I'm an Aquarius in the house. Awesome. So all the Spider-Man sting. Yep. Capricorn and that. We got all kinds of signs in here. I'm used to I've never saw another Sagittarius, and now like everybody's been coming up. I'm a Sagittarius. Bo Billingsta, who plays one of the coolest characters in Cowboy Bebop. I met him a long time ago at a convention, as a voice actor, and we're Facebook friends. And so he was saying happy birthday to me. Like he wrote me a post, happy birthday. Cause mine's December 8th. His birthday is today. And so I just realized that he's a Sagittarius. I never knew this. So I was like, I knew there's a reason. I sent a message like, I knew there's a reason I liked you. I'm like, you're Sagittarius too. So what are we going to have to call all the rest of the Spider-Man? Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. Like, you're 2, you're 3. I'm well, do it. Toby is the best Peter, and Andrew is the best Spider-Man. Andrew was too hot to be Peter. Exactly. He was skate punk everything. Yep. That's how I feel. But he was very good at Spider-Man. I loved his banter. I loved the jokes. I loved what a smart ass he was. It's like if you took his Spider-Man and let him do the voiceover, and then with Tobey Maguire let him be Peter, it would have been perfect. The perfect union. But Tobey Maguire's movie always rooted me out in continuity because they had MJ be his romance in high school, even though they had Liz Allen. If you blinked, you missed her. She was literally on the bus in the movie, and he went to go sit with her, and he smiled. She's like, like he just walked to the back. But they introduced Gwen Stacy after MJ, so they actually had him with MJ first, and that's not how it was comic, accuracy wise, should I say? Betty Brant, that whole thing where she kind of was really sweet and smiled at him, and they kind of had this little flirtatious thing going. That's accurate because that's how you met Betty Brant. So that's the one thing they did get right. But yeah, I thought that was completely backwards, which is funny to me, especially since the director was a huge Spider-Man fan. I'm like, how did you miss that man? I'm like, especially since Kirsten Dunst is blonde in real life. And I think they had Bryce Howard. Is that her name? Bryce Howard. I always get my Chickie from Jurassic Park. She played Gwen Stacy, and she's actually a redhead, and they made her dye her hair blonde. And I'm like, so you made the redhead go blonde and the blonde go a redhead? Like, what is happening? It would have been a really different movie if she had been MJ. didn't she get turned into some water creature via Hydro Man? That was in the animated series. And the comics, she gets injected by the evil version of Peter who wants to keep her safe. He's like, I can't protect you. It was like a mutated version of him. It was a while ago. They were doing these experiments at Oscorp, and they made a clone of Peter, and he was like this big, like red creature that he would turn into, and he injected MJ and she turned into the creature too. I will find that comic run for you, and I will put it down in the comments below. It's the same run that we get Death of Spider-Man when he's a teenager in, but I'll have to go and find it. It's also the same run where in this universe Nick Fury is black, because I remember that being a thing. Like a white Nick Fury came in one of the issues and he was like, who the hell are you? That was funny as shit. But yeah, the Hydro Man thing. Now, I don't remember that happening in the comics ever, but I do remember that happening in the 90s cartoon. This Strange doesn't seem as powerful since Endgame. I wonder with the reshoots for WandaVision, what's going on. I feel like what if it redeemed him, but what is going on? Yeah, it is weird that now maybe they're playing on the fact that this is not canon or in the same universe as the Prime 616 Earth, I guess. I don't know. Like all of it, like I said, it's just confusing. But I mean, MCU broke time travel. So I mean, it just broke the whole system. It's just completely broken. So why would the multiverse be different if you really think about it? Well, I want Bobby Drake to come out. He is like the biggest LGBTQ character in the X-Men mythos. Yeah. I mean, because Betsy Braddock is actually bisexual. She sleeps with men and women. I'm trying to think who else is. Because we don't have Angela. Angela is straight lesbian. Vark Tech. Was Vark Tech who did it? But that's the thing. Eric and Charles have both power and money. Sometimes that promiscuous Parker doesn't have. True. But Eric and Charles also employ children. Which makes me upset with Magneto, considering he came from the Holocaust and was in an internment camp, or a very horrible camp. I think he was in Auschwitz, wasn't he? He was in the worst camp for Jewish people that you could ever be in Germany, was what he broke out from. But he lost his whole family. So like, why would you employ children in to go die for you, and you actually were in a position where you were basically held a prisoner in a death camp? Yeah, no, whatever. We have mutants and we have mutants. No, we have mutates and we have mutants. I like how DC just calls them metas point blank, but MCU has categories for them. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Smallville couldn't say metahumans. They were like, what do they call them? Meteor rock freaks or something like that. And then Chloe had like the wall of the weird. I don't know. Well, we also know that for a long time, MCU didn't have the license to say mutants. They couldn't say it. So there's also that. So wait, is Toby going to get Uncle Ben since this Pete is still relatively young? I don't know. That's a good question. I want Mike's Morales. Mike's Morales? Shout out. Sam, I just don't want the infamous call-out scene. I feel like some of us can be mixed but still own our blackness, and that's okay. That's a choice. Don't hate Maria. It just took me a long journey to get there and a lot of disowning. I am very, how do I say this? I get really in my feelings when you are mixed genetically. We are taught in the States, and I actually have a video on this coming out. I did another one with Victoria where we respond to a YouTuber. She literally made a video crying and apologizing for calling herself mixed and that she didn't say she was completely black. And the problem that I have with that is that it invalidates part of who you are. If we are taught to love ourselves, like put it in perspective, if you are an LGBTQ plus member, my spouse is trans male, genetically born female, but only likes women. I am bisexual or pan, however you want to look at it. I don't actually care about your gender, but I mean, in totes, I will be with women. I will be with men. It doesn't mean anything. Like, it's just a person, basically. I would never be expected to say that I was a lesbian or heterosexual if I liked both genders. But yet when you are two races or ethnicities or however the hell you want to look at it, you are told that you are wrong if you claim all of yourself. I think that is absolute bullshit. And if it wasn't an erasure problem, it wouldn't be a big deal for me. And I'm sorry we're getting political on this. I don't like doing this, but I have to say this. It's only because in the Idris movie that we talked about, where they had the Western, everybody was canceling the mixed girl for being cast as Stagecoach Annie, when they're absolutely right. It was a colorism move, because the real Stagecoach Annie was really, really dark and older and plumper, and they cast this really thin, light-skinned or lighter-skinned mixed woman. But nobody was in their feelings that the rest of the cast members that were half Native American and half Black, some of them, when you look at their pictures, were white passing, were all made Black, and nobody said a damn thing. So this is why I have problems, because two things are wrong with this scenario. As a biracial or mixed person, that person should have never been cast as Stagecoach Annie, because she's not Black, completely Black. She's not. She's taking this role from an actress who is Black and darker skinned. And it's something that Hollywood and people across the board frown upon. People get canceled over. They tried to cancel this young woman over this. But at the same time, you're telling her to say she's Black. You can't do it. You cannot have it both ways. I'm sorry. So like when you are mixed, it's not that you hate your Blackness. It's just that you don't hate your other sides either. And that's how I effing look at it. So I'm not going to take away from Miles Morales. There's actually a problem with Miles Morales right now. They changed the hair texture. I think he had more of a fade, but they have him having curlier, more. It's not the 4C, 4B curl pattern that people are used to. When you have somebody who is fully Black, not saying you have to have 4B, 4A, because I have friends that do not have, people that actually have 3C hair that are, both their parents are Black. It's all in your genes. But a lot of people are in their feelings that his hair is not stereotypically more Black. When he is half Puerto Rican, you cannot cancel him being half Puerto Rican, just to say you're offended because he's not more Black. Because he's not. He is Afro-Latino. That is a completely different thing. So yeah, I get what you're saying, Ray. It's just something that at 45 years old, I am effing sick of having to defend myself for saying that I love the fact that I am Black. I love the fact that I am Native American. I love the fact that I am Scottish, and I don't give a shit what anybody else says. It's just who I am. Don't care. So Miles Morales is mixed, period. If we want to have representation as somebody who has a full Black Spider-Man, please give us one. I am completely down with that. Make a completely Black, like Static Shock is not mixed. Black Lightning is not mixed. We can have a fully Black Spider-Man. They did not give us a fully Black Spider-Man. They gave us an Afro-Latino, period. The iteration of Spider-Man is always my Spider-Man. That Green Goblin versus Spider-Man fight was brutal. That, like I said, they did not watch Power Rangers, so they did not know how to be a team player in that fight. So they were all doing their own shit, which is understandable. They were all the stars of their own franchises, so they were fighting like they were their own, like how they would react in their movies. And it took Tom saying, "But I was an Avenger," we're gonna fight as a team. They're like, "I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but cool." 1, 2, 3, let's go. I love that. Because at this point, I just really want Astrid Bloom to make an appearance. And I would love Astrid Bloom to be in the comics. That would be cool. Vassive Tech. They made Doctor Strange dumb for plucking. I don't think they made him dumb. I think they made him irresponsible. That's what I think of. He was catering, because he did say, I think because him and Peter were the ones that were with each other last when they blimped out, I feel like he had a little connection to him. And he was like, he's a kid. And he's like, I feel bad. He's been through a lot of stuff. He helped save the world. That's what helped him out. And one was like, I'm going to karaoke. Bye. No, don't put me in this. Speaking for a multiracial family, like the UN, the United Nations, I really had to translate that to the world. I have an experience, but to Black people, depending on class, I have had a darker experience, but I don't hold that against anyone. Like I said, let me put it this more in perspective too. I can pass for a lot of stuff. Do you know how easy it would be for me to just pass? You say, oh, I think you're this. I'm like, and then move on with my life. I choose to tell people what I am because I am proud of each and every one of them. But I am not going to live in a society that tells me that I have to pick a damn thing. You're not going to walk in my house and walk in my life and tell me that I have to choose between my parents, because I'm going to tell you, you can choose to get the hell out of my house. So that is how I feel. I don't do this society bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm never going to be that way. I'm never going to conform to what society thinks I should be. And I'm the same way with my sexuality. I know there's biphobia out there. I don't give five shits. I don't care. So people just need to get over it. There are things that you fight in this world and things that are just innately stupid. And genetics are genetics. Your genes don't effing lie. When you go to the doctor, and you say, oh, if I went to the doctor right now and said, you know what, I'm all white, which is what they put on my stuff. Do they not? They look at this ethnic ass face and they think I'm white. So I have to fight to tell them, no, my dad is half black, half Native American. Please put this on my form because of this part of me, I am predisposed to this. And because of my mother being Scottish, I am predisposed to skin cancer, especially since my skin is lighter. I need to be screened for everything genetically that my direct parents are, because I don't want to get sick and not have you check shit because you don't know who I am or what I am. So if that's how it works medically, why doesn't that work socially? I'm never not going to be mixed. I can say what I am all day. I can literally walk around and say I'm white, or walk around and say I'm Native American, or walk around and say I'm black. People can be like, you're always going to have that group of people within that subclass. They're going to say, no, you're not. So, I mean, F it. You are who you are. You identify the way you want to identify. And you know what you say to people that don't understand that? There's a big F and a U in that. So that is how that goes. I don't care. You're not going to cancel me. My rent's still going to be paid. It's fine. You're not paying it now. Trust me. I don't make crap off of YouTube. Trust me on that. It's fine. It is completely fine. No, I should just start my own book, or at the very least learn how to do fan art and future comment. I would think you should do a comic series and then get with Comixology and just release it. I think that would be really cool. Because they have some ideas on expanding the Sentinels of magic and physics for both DC and Marvel. Because as for the disband of the newly minted mutant teams for Krakoa, I am so behind on Krakoa. I really am, guys. I'm sorry. I'm behind. I need to catch up. But again, I had too much crap going on. It's just always this way. I'm always so busy and I need to have time for things that I like. But I am catching up with Young Justice. I'm so excited. That with a lot of power comes with a hell of a grit. Make it a shirt. I'm telling you, that should be a shirt. Like that, I think all comic book characters that are OP should get that. You are overpowered as hell with many regrets. I'm like, I'm wondering if they instead do Agent Venom from the comics with Flash Thompson instead. The writers clearly like the actor enough to give him stuff to do in the film. True. I mean, he wrote Flashpoint like in Marvel. When Ned said, I won't turn into a villain and try to kill you after he tells Peter he has magic, I was like, Hobgoblin. Yep. Hey, that could be a route they take. You never know. Well, so I'm not the biggest Ned fan. I feel Homecoming is mostly what I think of when I think of him being a bad friend, but that hasn't been that bad in the sequel. Yeah, like if you see him in Far From Home, he's a lot better. And then, but again, this is all insecurity. I love the actor that plays him. And I watched an interview with him and he was like, I'm vegan. I want to lose weight, but this is my character. My character's supposed to be this guy. He said, so I'm over here eating all this vegan food. And then I have to do the movie and, I have to stay, I can't be in shape. I can't work out like I want to. I have to be this big insecure guy. And I'm like, it's sad really that that's what they've typecasted him as. And you can tell when he was saying it, he was kind of like, I don't like it, but it's a job. I got, it allows me to be in the MCU. But at the same time, if you want to change yourself, you can't because this is your character. So if this actor went and lost like a bunch of weight and had muscles and all that, they would still pat him down and make him look like, he doesn't work out, eats whatever the hell he wants and is not healthy. And he's a vegan in real life. It's so funny to me and sad at the same time. So I don't know. Wait a minute. If we do have a Venom, would this mean we're going to eventually see Felicia, who got experimented on, thereby giving us Black Cat and the future appearance of Cloak and Dagger? I'm hoping. Oh, it'd be really cool if they had Cloak and Dagger, because they were killing people in Spider-Man when they first showed up. They were hunting people and killing them. But I think that having Black Cat would be interesting. I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't have her. Like I said, they're planning out the next 3. It's pretty much open to anything at this point, and I'm here for it. But as long as it leads to, as long as the MCU expands on POCs, especially on behalf of my spouse here, brings in the Atlas Foundation, I'm completely okay. Bring in the Atlas Foundation, right, baby?
Sure.
You know what the Atlas Foundation is?
No.
There where all the Asians are.
Oh, yes, bring them.
Marriage. I'm so happy that he got his redemption of saving his loved one. I think that was the scene that touched me the most, because when you saw that Gwen death scene in his Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then you see him actually be able to save, this version of MJ, not Gwen, obviously, but this version of MJ. Yeah, it just says a lot. I laugh when Toby reused the "my back" joke from Spider-Man 2. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. He's like, "Can you crack my back?" Actually, yes. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. That was funny. I hope Zendaya's MJ actually becomes a famous actress or a singer, since she can sing, and human rights activist in the films going forward, to set her apart more as a love interest. So I hope they don't, because the MJ of the prime comic book Earth was an actress and a model, and she eventually started doing musicals. During the Civil War, she did a musical. So that would be more lines of Mary Jane Watson. I like the idea that this MJ is an engineer and hates people. Like, she does not like people. She's like, I'd rather not talk to them. And after COVID, I get it. I'm the same damn way. I used to be so social. And now I go out and I'm like, don't come near me. If I have to go in a store, I am having an anxiety attack. I'm like, please don't touch me. Don't come near. Don't walk down the aisle with me. You could be 3 aisles down. I'm like, please stay in your lane. Don't come over here. I don't like it. So I like that we have this antisocial, very smart. She's still a humanitarian, still, a human rights activist, but also is very into science and wants to be an engineer. I love that about her. Those are cursed. Those words are cursed. I hope they don't kill Wanda off because she's favorite. I hope you remember enjoyed my book. I love you too. We did. Actually, River, it's over on River's work desk. And River, the way I get through it is River was reading parts of it to me like a bedtime story, because I'm so busy. This is how we have to do it. But yeah, we like it. Good job. Chris has a book that he released. I'm going to have to put up the name of it. I need to see, because you sent me a copy for free. So I need to see if there's like a link where they can order it, but it's very cool. And we will share the love in the description. So I'll edit the description box after the stream. Sorry, I'm late. What have I missed? So much, Mercenary. so much. But I see that was at 2:40, and here we are at 3:04. We're going to be ending the stream because we're almost over. No, we are over 2 hours. So we're going to take many more, but I'm trying. I wonder if we'll get to see Argel Zardos and Amanda Sefton, because they are prevalent magic users, one of which was Sorcerer Supreme, but treated like a part-time job. I don't think I know who Margel is. I don't think I've heard that name, Margel Zardos. Maybe if I see her or him. But I mean, I would like to see a lot of magical users incorporated in Doctor Strange, so it makes it seem real. Because those two guys are the girl and the guy that was shoveling up the snow. I'm like, what do you do besides that? They had their reactions were just like, meh, snow. Or did they hire some like snow plowers to just come in there and shovel up the snow, and they had no idea what was happening? But I mean, now because like one was opening portals, I don't know. It's weird. I feel like the Doctor Strange 2 trailer is a whole misdirect, because Supreme Strange became a bit of an anti-hero in What If. I believe they will eventually find out that Wanda's doing. Maybe he's just there to let him know or to warn him. I'm from the future. You trusted Wanda, and this was what happened type scenario. Like I said, I don't trust anything, absolutely anything that the MCU does after WandaVision. So Marissa Tomei is 57. How old is Aunt May supposed to be, because she doesn't look it? I don't know, actually. That's a good question, because I don't know how old Happy's supposed to be. But to be fair, if we're going by the comic book continuity, Happy was married to Pepper for a very long time in the comics. So That's why I'm really weirded out that he's not married to Pepper in this. You know, there was no Ant-Man happy. So MCU. Like, I'm going to have to do some major Doctor Strange research because he's been one of the more obscure characters for me that I didn't know much about. A lot of people didn't know how instrumental he is. He's always in the background doing stuff most of the time, but he's very instrumental in Spider-Man's life and in X-Men specifically. So they always go to him when it's something magical and they can't figure it out. They're like, hey, you, how do we do this? I'm like, do you know how to cure this? You know how to figure this out? How do we, is there a counter spell? So yeah, he's a pretty cool character. Like they all can't be Peter if they're staying here. Because how are they going to pay for bills or have food? Well, they all went home. Like they went to their respective homes. Like they faded out like everybody else in the end of the movie. Bye, Ryan. Thanks for joining. I liked all the Spider-Man giving each other props. Yeah. I absolutely love that, actually. No, the biggest would be Karma and Jian. Wish she could have been in New Mutants, but I digress. Well, we knew that wasn't going to happen. Smallville called them meteor freaks. That's what I thought. And then they had the wall of the weird. Yep. I had forgotten that in Let There Be Carnage, they mentioned the symbiote hive mind across the multiverse. And that's how Venom knew who Spider-Man was when he brought here. Yeah, but see, now this one, I think is going to play off of that because of the previous Venom going back to his world and the group of them. They're going to, I wonder if they can actually sense each other in different times or multiverses, though. That would be interesting. I don't know if I've ever read a story where they were like able to sense another multiverse version of themselves. So that would be interesting. Aside from it, it would be North Star, then Karma, then Bobby, and I think Prodigy would be very cool. Mixed people are exactly who they are, and they should embrace both sides. I don't get why accepting who you are as a whole isn't allowed. You can't literally say to one other person's parents doesn't matter. I'm telling you, I've never understood that fight, guys. It's something that's actually very insulting to me when people try and say, you shouldn't say this. You just, it doesn't matter what you're mixed with. If it's a POC part, they're like, you just need to just completely identify as that. And I'm like, but that's not true. And I'm not going to tell my other parents that they're shit because you want me to. I'm sorry, I'm not. I don't have these race politics in my family. I'm not saying it's not happening in the world. In my house, it's not happening. And my mother passed from cancer, and I miss her every effing day. And I'll be damned if someone's going to tell me I'm not allowed to claim my mother. So you got seriously get some butt. I don't have time for that. I also have ideas on some redesigns on the Hive and the Sentinels of Magic of DC, along with a variety of mutants like Back Half, New Mutants, Jubilee's team, Hellions. Oh, I would love that. I would love to have more the Gen X people show up in the MCU. Looking at how casting agents cast, if you walk into a casting office, I know you get cast as Native American, Latino, or Asian based on your. I know. Trust me, I know. Hell, I did like literally, guys, no joke, on my Facebook and on YouTube, I asked people what they thought I was. Do you know how many people said part Black? Maybe 11. Do you know how many Filipino, Mexican, Puerto Rican, Hawaiian? Somebody actually thought I was an Eskimo. Am I lying? You're an Eskimo, right? I'm like, what the? Like, what? I did a 23andMe, guys, and I don't know if you guys ever done that before, but mine is very long and very interesting, which means my ancestors they did some playing. Not even just on my dad's side. My mother, her whole family is from the UK. My mother was the first person in her entire family to ever move to the States, and it's only because my dad was military and we got stationed in Chicago that we even came to the States. Because I was born in Germany, and what's so interesting is even on my mother's side, I was finding minority stuff. And I'm like, it's so interesting what my ancestors were up to. They were screwing everybody. I'm like, everybody. I got Pakistani, I got Southeastern Asian. One of the things that still shocks me to this day is my grandfather, my dad's father, is full indigenous, full Native American. My daughter got none of it when she did her 23andMe from me. None of it. She got African. She got European. She got Bengali. I am 5 or 6% Bengali. My daughter is 1.3% Bengali. So I am more Native American than I am Bengali, but my daughter pulled Bengali and no Native American. And I thought that was effing hilarious.
And she's bitter.
And she is very bitter about it. She's like, oh, I'm Native American. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's not like you can't say you're not part Native American because your great grandfather is still a whole ass Native American, but genetically, she didn't get it. So it's interesting what your genes pull. But yeah, I get in my feelings, guys. I do. And I think what got me was this one YouTuber, and I'll probably get a lot of shit for it when I post this video. But again, I'm telling you guys, you my loyal followers know I don't care, because what people say online, yeah, they can cancel you, they can try to make your life hard, but I just have to turn the computer off and not give a fuck. So it's what it is. I do not like when somebody has to make a video where they call out other mixed people, and it's actually to my mixed and biracial people, telling you that you just need to pick this side and stop internalizing your racism, basically, is what that video said. And I'm like, I don't know about you, but I have never, ever not claimed my dad. I have never not told anybody that I was part Black. Never. I've never done that. I've never not said I was part Native American. Another group of people that people don't give a shit about in this country. Just saying. But you are not going to sit here and make me feel like crap because I claimed my white mama. I'm like, I'm sorry. She went through 48 hours of labor to have me, so I figured she earned that. I'm just putting it out there. So yeah, it's this country, especially, this doesn't happen. I mean, racism across the board is in every country, but at least in the UK and other places, they don't make mixed people pick a side. This is the only damn country that does that shit. And it makes me physically sick. And it is literally reflected in TV shows and movies and in life. And I am just tired of it. I am not going to, if you don't want me walking into your house telling you to pick one of your parents, don't fucking walk into mine telling me to do it. And that's how I feel about it. So yeah, as you can see, Angry Grandma comes out with this conversation. It's only because Angry Grandma has been dealing with this for almost 90-something% of her life. And I'm just tired of it. I am tired of it. I'm tired of being accused of being racist against my minority sides. I'm tired of all that stuff when all I'm saying is I'm mixed. That does not mean I'm racist. It just means I actually have a brain in my damn head and I understand what science is. So just saying. Few more questions. I wonder who they're going to get to play Norman Osborn in the MCU, and this Peter Parker would be a guard for him this time around. I think they should get William Dafoe. I mean, why not? He was always older than Peter. I mean, he's already in DC, in DC universe, in Aquaman. Let him come back to MCU as this version. And you know how messed up it would be if he was the Norman Osborn of this world? Because Peter would have to look at him, and it would be like the whole Harrison Wells thing all over again. You know, where the reverse glass killed Barry's mother and looked like Harrison. And then, of course, there's the Harrison Wells. It would be that whole scenario of him having to get over the fact that the guy, this Norman Osborn, is different from the one that killed his Aunt May. I don't know. I think that would be really cool. If even Tom Holland himself said they want Sony and Marvel to do a Miles Morales movie. I think they should. Why not? I want a Miles Morales movie. I absolutely would love to have a Miles. I mean, we have an animated one, technically. But yeah, I think they definitely should. But again, MCU, they do their own shit. They do allow POCs in it, but let's be clear. Outside of Falcon, where he shared billing with Winter Soldier, maybe Riri Williams and a couple of others. It's up until now, there has not been a huge presence for a lot of POCs. If you look at the original Avengers, there you go. And then don't get me started about LGBTQ. We don't exist in MCU. We just don't fucking exist. We don't exist. So yeah, I'm not holding my breath. And then the fact that the MCU movies are actually being produced by Disney, who is notorious for only giving a crap about LGBTQ people, you know, during Pride Month where they can make money. I don't really hold my breath on any of that stuff. So it's a thing. Marley was Amanda Septon's mom. Okay, so she delved more into the darker aspects of magic. Okay, I didn't know that. So thank you for explaining that. What are your thoughts on Doctor Strange not being the Sorcerer Supreme? I mean, he wasn't the Sorcerer Supreme for, you know, in the comic run, Loki was. Loki took it from him and then he got it back. So, I mean, this is not something that hasn't happened in the comics, but I think it's funny. I think that him being blimped out of existence is funny and realistic because he was gone for 5 years. You can't expect to hold your job when you're gone for 5 years. I'm going to go to work one day and be blimped out and then not expect to be in my feelings when I realize I'm no longer employed at this company because I've been gone for 5 years. Like, so that's basically it. He lost his place in line. It's reflected in her appearance. Okay. Oh, thank you kindly for sharing the book. I'm going to crash sending love. Good night, Chris. Really an Eskimo? I can't even make this up. I was like, where, when, why, how, and who? Did you see that? Where do you see that? People thought, and I've said this before, even the person we got our marriage license from, which is scary, thought we were siblings. Nothing alike. We look nothing alike. All they saw was the dark hair, the dark eyes, the light skin, not the features. But they're like, oh, you have to be siblings. I'm like, you people lost your damn mind. First of all, if I was a sibling, why would we be in here applying for a marriage license to each other? I can't make this stuff up, guys. I wish I could have actually gotten like my phone out and recorded it, because I remember leaving there and I was like, what the hell just happened? Guys.
She didn't know either.
Guys. We just have to move on. F the ones that tell you to pick who you are. There is no one in the entire United States of America that is not of mixed race. It's true. And like I said, I understand the trauma behind a lot of it. Slavery was messed up. It traumatized a lot of people. But, you know, my parents got married or had to get married way after I was born. My parents weren't married when I was born, because I was born in 1976 and it wasn't legal in the States. And we were in Germany, where also that wasn't the thing that they were doing. So when they had me, let me put it to you this way. My dad is from the South, from Memphis, Tennessee. His grandmother is from Mississippi. If my dad had married my mother and my mother was American white, he probably would have been hung. They would have lynched him. So I'm very sensitive to interracial marriage stuff. I'm in an interracial marriage. They don't think I am, but I am. I'm in an interracial marriage. You know, we are not the same ethnicities. So I'm very sensitive to the children and products of that, being one, and then having a daughter who's also the product of one, because her biological parent is half Chinese and half Vietnamese. So it's very, when you have imposter syndrome, because you get imposter syndrome, you don't know where you fit in, and you spend so much of your life trying to figure out why you're different. And you know, when you're a kid, you don't want to be the different one. I went through that. I went through that whole phase. It took a long time for me to accept that it was okay to be mixed, that it was okay to be me. And so now I keep hearing this talks where it's just like, no, you need to say this, or you're not one of us, or you need to say this, or you're racist, or you have internal racism. It pisses me the hell off because I had to do so much work to accept who I was. And I'm not about to let anybody tell me what biologically I already know I am. So it's just, we just live in that country. It's just what it is. We live in a very unaccepting country. We strive to accept things, but representation matters, but it doesn't matter, and it doesn't apply to everyone. And that has always been the problem in this country. It's not across the board. So yeah, I have lots of issues here. Made her looks like a cross of a goblin and demon. Oh, wow. That's a mix. A goblin and a demon. When someone asks me who I am or what I am, I used to reply, I'm the one that's going to kick your ass. This is when I was younger. Now I don't give anyone the satisfaction of answering and walk away. Like I said, being ambiguous, I could literally spend all day, just saying, I am whatever you think I am, and move on. And they will accept that, because for some reason they just do. But I mean, I'm like, no, I'm proud of what I am. This is what I am. Accept it and move on. I mean, basically, that's all you got. All right. The magic that she used was called the winding magic, or well, I'm sorry, winding way, similar to the phases of the moon. It waxes and wanes over time. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. See, Nicholas, I don't know why you're not an author. You should write books. Make comic books. But I will tell you, as somebody who's making a motion comic, is really, really expensive. Really expensive. And just not to scare you, but by the time I'm done with this, I'm going to be spending probably close to $3,000 just on one issue. So
unless you can draw all of it yourself.
Yeah.
Then it's just time consuming.
Yeah. Then you're just, and I can't draw them all. I can sketch, but I am not a comic book artist, a digital artist. Not going to happen. River can draw very well. Not a digital artist. Although River did make all the characters for Crisis and for our Hyper Guard. So They're cute.
Hobby
guards. I don't even know the name of my own stuff and I make it up. That's sad. That's how you know you're
always
old.
call it hyper.
I always call it hyper. I guess I'm hyper. I don't know. When you said Eskimo, I was like, you are some ignorant casting agent's dream, Mr. I can send you the audition for anything. Capitalism, they care about it as much money as they can make. It's so funny. I, as a voice actress, we get a lot of sides in our email. And so if something is for somebody, like for instance, I'll get a lot of POC material. But then they look at me like, because you have to send your headshot and your demo to some people. And like, I remember one of the characters that I was auditioning for was, at the time, I didn't know it. I did not know this, was actually African. And so even if you know the voice, I'm like, they're like, oh no, we can't cast you. I'm like, because if they see me, even though they know I'm part Black, the people that see me aren't going to know that unless I just put it out. And nobody in a cartoon or video game is going to have a bio about your race or your ethnicity on their page. They're going to be like, oh, you couldn't cast a Black person. And I'm like, so I had to accept that that's what that was. Just like in Hollywood, no one is going to cast me as a fully Black person. Honestly, I think I would have a hard time as a fully Native person because I don't look fully Native. So, I mean, I look closer to Native than I do Black. And I definitely look closer to Black and Native than I do white. But I would never be cast as any of those three. I'm just being real. I think I'd probably get away with being cast as Latina. But then I would feel really effing bad about it. So, because I'm not. So yeah, it is a thing. It is a thing. Eskimo, I don't know what the hell to say about that. I still don't know what to say about that. I guess I really need to stare at some pictures of Eskimoian women because I don't see that at all.
You did.
I said one row, but I mean, and I realized there were different ones. I was like, I don't know what the hell I don't know what people are seeing. The amount of Karens pissed about the new Sex and the City show, including Black characters and a Latin trans character, or forced diversity, shows how diversity is way more necessary. I agree with that. Oh, trust me, nobody is denying that racism and colorism do not exist. I'm just saying that I don't want to be put in the bucket of racist because I say I'm mixed, and that is what's happening. And it happens a lot with the more ambiguous looking mixed ones for some reason than it does everyone else. If you're a white passing or Black passing or Asian passing, whatever your mix is, you don't get it as hard because they don't think that you're mixed. But when they don't know what you are, then they come after you. Pick a side, biatch. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, you don't know me. You don't know my struggle.
I'm Switzerland.
Yep. But that's okay. My beautiful Korean American spouse is always Chinese wherever we go. Always. I have no idea why.
I got Hawaiian once.
You did get Hawaiian once. That was interesting. But not in Hawaii.
No, not in Hawaii.
I got Hawaiian in Hawaii.
I got Japanese in Hawaii.
We went to a luau and literally the Polynesian dancer, especially the guy, thought I was Polynesian. And I'm like, where? All right, guys. We're going to have to cut this short. We're almost at 2.5 hours. So, Maria, I'm always trying to catch your live reactions. One of the things we're keeping it real. Merry Christmas to you, River. And happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
I remember today, and family got to go right now. Catch you later. We're about to end this stream now. I'm writing a book with trans superheroes, and I honestly don't think I can publish it in this country, but it's a story I want to write, and I haven't read. You know what? You know what? You publish it. You publish that book, and you send me a link to it. Don't worry about what people in this country want to read. That's what they want to read. They literally made a movie called Human Centipede. You publish whatever you want. If you can watch people actually have their mouths attached to each other's buttholes, you can write whatever the hell you want because they made that viral. So you write it and don't worry about it. Be proud of it. Put it out. You will have an audience. Do it. Don't worry about what these people think. I don't. All right. You guys are awesome. I'm going to go now because we've been doing this for almost 2.5 hours and my voice is going out and I'm tired
and hungry
and I'm hungry. And at this point, I don't even have any words left. Spider-Man. Awesome. Awesome movie. Gives me hope for Doctor Strange too. Gives me hope that maybe this Wednesday Hawkeye will be good. Not that it's been bad, but I just feel like they need to go out with a really good season finale. And that's something that's going to take me off. So hopefully when Wednesday comes around, I won't be like, why? Just start banging my head into the table. Excuse me. I didn't mean to kick the camera. Yes, I did. But yeah, and if you take anything away from this, they're still doing a hell of a lot better than the Arrowverse.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so like, regardless. All right, guys.
If it is day for you.
I just had to say this, Maria. I think sometimes you just say Polynesian, yes, so you don't have to explain it. Polynesian. You guys are awesome. All right, guys. If it is day for you, what can they do, River?
Have a good day.
And if it is night for you,
have a good night.
And we'll see you in our next video and stream. Happy holidays. If we don't see you before Christmas, and I will, have a very, very good day, night, and time. Bye, guys.